It was August, and the scorching sun blazed overhead. The sun hung in the sky like a blazing furnace, warping the air with heat. Outside Jiangzhou Elite High School, vehicles lined the roadside. Today was registration day, and countless parents had personally accompanied their children to enroll. Besides those arriving by car, many rode atop strange, varied creatures. Just then, a large bird of prey streaked across the sky. A shadow slid across the ground beneath the sunlight. "Look, it's a corviknight." Someone suddenly pointed upward and shouted. All heads turned skyward. A colossal black beast clad in feathers like forged armor descended slowly, its plumage glinting brightly under the sun. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the corviknight landed, its several-meter-wide wings beat furiously, sending powerful gusts surging out in every direction. The fierce wind sent nearby pedestrians staggering backward. A tall young woman was jostled by the crowd and lost her balance, tipping backward. At the critical moment, another figure reached out and steadied her. "Are you all right, classmate?" Qin Hao looked down at the girl in his arms and asked gently. I'm fine. Thank you, classmate." The girl had still been shaken by the scare, but her gaze froze the instant she saw Qin Hao's face. A soft blush quickly crept across her delicate features. "I'm glad you're unhurt. I'll let go now." With that, Qin Hao helped her stand upright, then stepped back a respectful distance after releasing her. "Xiaoqi, are you okay? You scared me half to death." A stylishly dressed young woman hurried over, her high heels clicking sharply against the pavement. The short-haired mother pulled the girl into a tight embrace, panic etched across her face. "Let Mom check. Did you get hurt?" "I'm fine, Mom. Luckily this classmate caught me." The girl shook her head lightly and nodded toward Qin Hao. "Thank goodness you're all right. I was so worried." The short-haired woman heaved a deep sigh of relief. The next second, however, she glared sharply toward the corviknight. "Who does that rider think they are? Can't they be careful taking a flying taxi?" She then turned back to Qin Hao. "And thank you for saving my Xiaoqi, young man." Seeing how quickly the woman's mood shifted, Qin Hao smiled and waved his hand. "No trouble at all, Auntie. It was nothing. If there's nothing else, I'm going inside to complete registration." He hoisted his school bag and strode toward the school gates. Watching him start to leave, the girl snapped out of her daze and called out hastily. "My name's Deng Xiaoqi. I'm a new freshman this year." "What's your name, classmate?" "Qin Hao. I'm also a new freshman." Qin Hao paused briefly and replied with a faint smile. "Thank you, Qin Hao." Faced with his sunny grin, Deng Xiaoqi's cheeks flushed once more, and her quiet words of gratitude faded to nearly a whisper. Qin Hao gave a slight wave, said nothing further, and walked quickly onward. Deng Xiaoqi stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly at his retreating figure, lost in thought. "Qin Hao, such a nice name. And he's so handsome too. I hope we end up in the same class." As Deng Xiaoqi indulged in her quiet admiration, her mother's voice pulled her back to reality. "What are you daydreaming about, Xiaoqi? Grab your luggage and let's go." "Coming, Mom." The commotion stirred up by the corviknight gradually died down. Qin Hao followed the stream of students and soon entered the campus. "Attention all students and accompanying parents. Do not release any Pokemon within school grounds to prevent accidents. Repeat, do not release any Pokemon to prevent accidents. Thank you for your cooperation." Listening to the crisp announcement echoing around him, Qin Hao let out a quiet sigh. "Even after 16 years living in this world, I still find it hard to believe everything is real." 16 years ago, on a rainy night, Qin Hao had been struck by a Maybach and transported into this reality. He had enjoyed a happy family as a child. Everything changed when he turned 10. The passenger plane carrying his parents crashed, leaving only him and his grandmother. Tragically, his grandmother passed away a year ago, leaving Qin Hao completely orphaned. Thankfully, he still had the Pokemon his grandmother left behind to keep him company, so he was never truly alone. This world was far more extraordinary than the Earth he remembered from his past life. Pokemon, creatures that once only existed in works of fiction, lived alongside humanity. These whimsical, beloved creatures could turn into devastating forces. Even a newly mature Pokemon could easily overpower an average adult human. A fully unleashed elite-tier Pokemon possessed enough power to level entire cities. Champion-tier Pokemon could reshape mountains and divert rivers. As for the divine-tier Pokemon, each wielded the power to scour the surface and devastate entire ecosystems. Thankfully, this blue planet was 10 times larger than Earth, and most Pokemon held gentle temperaments. Otherwise, humanity's survival would hang in the balance. Historians studying ancient texts had uncovered the origin of the Pokemon. Over 2,000 years ago, during China's Warring States period, the heavens shifted. It was believed another world collided and merged with this planet, bringing these wondrous yet dangerous creatures into existence. After centuries of struggle and adaptation, society evolved into its current form. As he grew older, Qin Hao made another startling discovery. This world was not only inhabited by Pokemon. Characters from countless films and series also existed here. Take Deng Xiaoqi, whom he had met just outside the school gates, or a delivery firm known as NATO Tong. He had been utterly stunned when he first heard that company's name. He even wondered whether, long before humans invented Pokeballs, ancient Qi cultivators subdued Pokemon by fighting them into submission. All in all, it was an incredibly complex world. Every major occupation across nations was closely tied to Pokemon. The most respected career of all was that of the Pokemon trainer. While humanity possessed advanced technology, their most powerful weapons could only threaten elite-tier Pokemon at best. A trainer who raised a champion-tier Pokemon was a strategic weapon unto themselves. Most people were only legally permitted to obtain their first partner Pokemon once they turned 16. Raising Pokemon, however, came with enormous costs, out of reach for many. Setting aside daily feeding expenses, purchasing a Pokemon egg directly from a breeding house cost no less than tens of thousands of Dongwon yuan. It was clear that becoming a Pokemon trainer was not for everyone. Without sufficient wealth, one could never afford the resources needed to strengthen their Pokemon. Of course, people could keep Pokemon merely as pets, feeding them ordinary food. Such Pokemon would simply never gain the power to split mountains and crack stone. Qin Hao's own finances were modest. Still, having been reborn into such a remarkable world, he refused to live a mediocre life. One way or another, he would raise powerful Pokemon. If becoming a full-time trainer seemed out of reach for now, he could start out as a Pokemon breeder. Fortunately, Qin Hao had excelled academically. He was Jiangzhou's top scorer in the high school entrance examination this year. To recruit him, Elite High School waived all tuition fees and offered a Pokemon egg as a reward. I just hope the egg holds a Pokemon with solid potential. Inside the classroom administration building of Elite High School. Knock, knock, knock. Qin Hao stepped lightly into the office. Excuse me, is teacher Zhao Rongbao here? Only a handful of staff occupied the office, but all looked up at the sound of his voice. A serious middle-aged man adjusted his glasses and stood slowly. I am Zhao Rongbao. What can I do for you, young man? Good morning, teacher Zhao. I am Qin Hao, a new freshman. Qin Hao walked forward and introduced himself with a smile. You're Qin Hao? You're a fine-looking young man. Zhao Rongbao had clearly heard about him beforehand and patted Qin Hao's shoulder warmly. Welcome to Elite High School. Come to me with any troubles, whether in your studies or daily life. I hope you enjoy your 3 years here. Thank you, teacher Zhao. I will keep working hard. After brief pleasantries, Qin Hao got straight to the point. Teacher Zhao, I came to ask what procedures I need to complete to claim the school's reward. Noticing his eagerness, Zhao Rongbao smiled even more broadly. He glanced down at his wristwatch, then looked back up. I have a meeting soon, but I can take you to collect your reward first. Follow me. I appreciate your trouble, teacher Zhao. Qin Hao's face lit up, and he hurried to follow. The two left the office and headed toward the school's Pokemon Ecological Park, a standard facility found in every school in this world. As a private high school, Elite High charged steep tuition, but the Pokemon within its ecological park boasted comparatively greater potential. Qin Hao, your reward is a choice between 500,000 Dongwon yuan or an equivalent value Pokemon egg. Are you certain you want the egg? Zhao Rongbao confirmed along the way. Qin Hao nodded without hesitation. I've made up my mind, teacher Zhao. I choose the Pokemon egg. Very well. The Pokemon eggs in our school's ecological park are all of decent quality. They soon arrived at the ecological park. Director Zhao, what brings you here? A female teacher grooming a Ninetales turned and greeted them with a smile. Zhao Rongbao grinned and gestured toward Qin Hao beside him. This is the top entrance exam student we recruited this year. I've brought him to collect his reward. So this is him. The female teacher looked Qin Hao over with quiet curiosity. Evidently, all faculty at the school knew about the star recruit. Teacher Lin, I have to rush to my meeting. I'll leave this matter in your hands. Rest assured, Director. I will handle it properly. Once Zhao Rongbao departed, the female teacher, Teacher Lin, turned toward Qin Hao. Qin Hao, please show me your ID card. Thank you for your help, Teacher Lin. Qin Hao handed over his identification. She took it, walked to a computer, and quickly completed the registration formalities. All set. Follow me. Guided by Teacher Lin, Qin Hao entered the inner section of the ecological park. Rows upon rows of Pokemon eggs stretched out before his eyes. These are the eggs available for selection. Most have labels indicating their species. You may pick whichever you like. Teacher Lin added a note after speaking. If none of these appeal to you, you can select higher potential, higher value eggs, though you will need to cover the price difference yourself. Qin Hao nodded, knowing he would not take that option. His finances were tight. Most of the compensation from his parents' accident had been spent covering his grandmother's medical bills. He needed the remaining funds to get by, and could not afford to sink everything into a single egg. Teacher Lin fell silent and waited patiently. Qin Hao's gaze swept over every egg. While all were common species, the selection left him spoiled for choice. Machop, Poliwag, and Geodude are all solid picks. Their fully evolved forms have base stats comparable to the starter Pokémon. Grass and bug types are easier to raise. With shorter evolution cycles, they can enter combat faster. I can rule out common bird Pokémon, though I already have a Pidgeot waiting at home. Every Pokémon had its own strengths and traits. In that moment, Qin Hao wished he possessed the ability to see each egg's hidden potential. If he could tell which held the greatest promise, he would not need to struggle with indecision. Then his eyes locked onto one egg marked with pale brown speckles. A small plaque beneath it read, "Far-fetched egg, imported from the Galar region." The school carries Pokémon eggs from other regions? Qin Hao exclaimed in surprise. Teacher Lin nodded matter-of-factly. Naturally, the school board owns businesses overseas. They occasionally import rare regional Pokémon eggs to attract top students. Can I choose this one? Qin Hao asked immediately. Are you sure? Teacher Lin asked softly. Qin Hao nodded firmly. This is the one I want. Qin Hao judged potential partners based on two simple criteria: overwhelming battle strength, or simply a personal fondness for the Pokémon. Ordinary Farfetch'd could not evolve and possessed limited potential, but the Galarian variant evolved into Surfetch'd, boasting an outstanding attack stat of 135. Surfetch'd was a formidable fighter, and Qin Hao greatly admired its design. There was no need to hesitate. Seeing that he had reached his decision, Teacher Lin offered no further persuasion. Carry the egg and follow me. Qin Hao carefully lifted the egg and trailed after her. He handled it with the utmost care. Teacher Lin led him into a room and carried out several items. This is an incubator provided as an extra school benefit, along with 3 Pokeballs. Thank you, Teacher Lin, and thank you to the school. Qin Hao gently placed the Pokemon egg inside the incubator, then held the whole unit securely against his chest. Even if eggs were not as fragile as they seemed, caution never hurt. He bid Teacher Lin farewell and left the ecological park with the incubator. Since he had already applied to be a day student, he did not need to visit the dormitories or classroom. Ignoring curious stares from students and parents, he collected his school uniform and departed Elite High School. He lived in Country Garden Residential Quarter, not far from the school. If he recalled correctly, Lin Miao Miao and Qian Sanyi also rented housing in this complex. Country Garden was an older neighborhood. The apartment buildings had no elevators, yet they were not run down. The 70-square-meter flat had been left to Qin Hao by his parents. Small as it was, it contained everything he needed. More than enough space for him to live alone. Once home, Qin Hao set the incubator on his bedroom nightstand. According to the display on the device, the Farfetch'd would hatch in roughly 2 to 3 weeks. That gave him plenty of time to prepare. He turned on his computer and researched supplies and care guidelines for newly hatched Pokémon. It was plain to see why Pokémon were such a dominant force in this world. Every product related to them came with a steep price tag. A standard red and white Pokeball retailed officially for 200 yuan. A 100-milliliter bottle of Moo Moo milk sold for roughly 140 yuan on average. If basic supplies cost so much, the price of nutrient-rich berries, energy cubes, and rare evolutionary items could only be imagined. I need to find a way to earn money. Otherwise, I'll never afford to raise 2 Pokemon. Qin Hao sighed quietly, overwhelmed by the pressures of daily life. The cost of nurturing Pokemon was staggering. Just then, a rushing sound echoed outside the window. Qin Hao closed his Rotom Dex and walked over to the window. A dark shape circled downward, slowed by beating wings, and landed steadily on the windowsill. Welcome back, Pidgeot. Qin Hao smiled and stroked the feathers of the majestic bird Pokemon. Pidgeot chirped, rubbing affectionately against his palm. Human and Pokemon had lived side by side for years, regarding one another as their closest family. I almost forgot. Let me introduce our new family member. Qin Hao stepped aside and nodded toward the Pokemon egg resting on the nightstand. I've finished school registration and received the Pokemon egg awarded by the school. It will be part of our household soon, so promise you'll protect it. Pidgeot nodded firmly and let out a resolute cry. There's one more thing. Qin Hao pulled a Pokeball from his backpack and held it out to Pidgeot with hopeful eyes. I've reached the legal age to officially form a Pokemon partnership. Will you become my Pokemon? Pidgeot. Without a moment's hesitation, Pidgeot pressed its pale pink beak against the button on the front of the Pokeball. Click. The Pokeball split open at its center. Pidgeot dissolved into a beam of red light and flowed inside. The ball wobbled once, then emitted the chime, signaling a successful capture. What should I say now? I caught Pidgeot. A wide grin spread across Chen Hao's face as he stared at the Pokeball in his hand. Though Pidgeot originally belonged to his grandmother, it had never been bound inside a Pokeball. Now that he planned to pursue a career as a breeder, having Pidgeot officially travel alongside him was essential. Chen Hao was about to release Pidgeot when a cold, robotic notification echoed directly inside his mind. Ding! Host has captured your first Pokemon. The growth assistance system has been activated. Base function, interworld passage fully deployed. You have received your initial rewards. Inside Eyes, Pocket Pokemon Sanctuary area coverage, 10,000 square kilometers. Growth assistance? I've gotten my cheat ability. Chen Hao's heart jolted with excitement. He originally planned to become a Pokemon breeder. After accumulating enough wealth, he would focus on raising the strength of his Pidgeotto and Galarian Farfetch'd. But the sudden arrival of the system completely overturned all his plans. Still, this was undoubtedly a wonderful turn of events. If the system was powerful enough, Chen Hao could reach his goals far more smoothly. He might not even need to toil away as a breeder to earn money. That was not to say being a breeder was a bad path. It was simply that becoming a trainer opened up far greater possibilities. Come out, Pidgeotto. Suppressing his excitement, Chen Hao released Pidgeotto from its Pokeball. Thanks to the power of Eye of Insight, he could view the Pokemon's complete stats. Pidgeotto gender, male type, normal/flying level, 21 ordinary tier ability. Keen Eye sharpens vision and perception. Accuracy cannot be lowered. Moves, Air/Egg move, novice, 27/50ths, tackle proficient, 3/100ths, sand attack proficient, 13/100ths, gust novice, 22/50ths, quick attack novice, 39/50ths held item, none potential talent. Elite tier affection, 207/255ths. An elite tier potential? Chen Hao was visibly surprised after reading Pidgeotto's profile. From all the Pokemon knowledge he had gathered over the years, Pokemon power was divided into 8 tiers, ordered from weakest to strongest. Rookie tier, ordinary tier, elite tier, professional tier, quasi-elite 4 tier, elite 4 tier, champion tier, and the legendary divine tier. The system assigned clear numerical ranges to each tier. Rookie tier, levels 5 to 15, ordinary tier, levels 16 to 30, elite tier, levels 31 to 49, professional tier, levels 50 to 69, quasi-elite 4 tier, levels 70 to 79, elite 4 tier, levels 80 to 89, champion tier, levels 90 to 99. Newly hatched Pokemon existed in a hatchling state weaker than the rookie tier, yet they quickly outgrew this phase. Besides, no one would be cruel enough to send newly hatched Pokemon into battle, so this tier was generally disregarded. According to Pokemon genetics, a Pokemon's potential talent determined its theoretical power ceiling. Stronger Pokemon tended to produce offspring with superior talent, though rare mutations could occasionally occur. Furthermore, high potential talent did not guarantee overwhelming strength. Without proper nurturing, untapped potential would be wasted, drastically lowering the maximum power a Pokemon could achieve. Conversely, low potential talent was not an absolute dead end. Potential itself could be improved. With the correct elemental Pokemon treasures, even the weakest could rise to great heights. Chen Hao turned his gaze toward the nightstand. Galarian Farfetch'd gender, male type, fighting level, 0 egg ability. Scrappy allows normal and fighting type moves to hit ghost type Pokemon. Greatly resists Intimidate. Moves, none held item, none potential talent. Elite tier affection, 0 255ths. Also elite tier potential, and it has a rare hidden ability. That's fantastic news. A grin spread across Chen Hao's face as he finished reading the Galarian Farfetch'd test information. For most people, starting out with even a single elite tier Pokemon was already an enviable fortune. Brimming with excitement, Chen Hao continued examining the system. Its functions were simpler than he expected. Defeating opponents granted base experience and skill experience. This applied not only to battles between Pokemon. In short, his Pokemon would gain experience from defeating humans, and Chen Hao would also earn experience whenever he defeated Pokemon or humans. Base experience could only raise a Pokemon's level. Skill experience, however, could be allocated to increase the proficiency of any move a Pokemon knew. Chen Hao's own skills could also be upgraded in this way. Skills strengthened with experience would never degrade or grow rusty from disuse. The most incredible feature of all was the system's world passage. Once every year, the passage would connect to another world. After a connection formed, time flowed at the same pace across all linked realms. Qin Hao and his Pokemon could travel to these foreign worlds and learn martial arts and powers native to each realm. The thought made Qin Hao wear a peculiar expression, a Farfetch'd capable of sword flight, a Pidgeotto reborn as an immortal firebird. Or perhaps he himself would cultivate enough power to stand toe-to-toe with elite 4-tier Pokemon with nothing but his physical body. The rules here were about to be broken, not just for Pokemon, but for trainers too. Though Chi practitioners and psychics existed in this world, they paled in comparison to the mighty warriors scattered across countless realms. This is absolutely amazing. Ecstasy washed over Qin Hao. One piece of good news followed another. He had once worried endlessly about earning funds to raise his Pokemon. With point allocation and the world passage at his disposal, money was no longer a concern. Leaving aside resources from other worlds, experience points alone could turn him into an expert in any field in a short time. Take energy cube crafting, for example. He could produce them for his own team, cutting massive costs, while selling surplus cubes to turn a profit. Open my personal status panel. Qin Hao spoke the command silently in his mind. A blue holographic screen materialized before his eyes. Auxiliary Growth System Host. Qin Hao attributes average adult male baseline equals 1 constitution, 1.17 muscle strength, physical resistance, stamina, recovery, etc. Spirit, 1.51 mental fortitude, willpower, energy, reaction speed, comprehension, etc. Daily skills, Eastern Daxiao language novice, 63 out of 100, Bald Eagle language novice, 32 out of 100, cooking novice, 81 out of 100, physics other skills, none. Base experience points, 0 skill experience points, 0. How thorough. I had no idea I knew so many skills. Per the system's classification, daily skills were ranked: beginner, novice, intermediate, advanced, master. Beginner represented amateurs and hobbyists. Novice meant one possessed solid basic skill, enough to work professionally in that field. Intermediate denoted elite proficiency within the discipline. Advanced and master tiers represented industry experts and top pioneers respectively. Beyond master lay grandmaster, a pinnacle achievement worthy of being recorded in history. The ranking standards for other skills remained unclear. He would likely have to learn abilities from other worlds to find out. No wonder I've always picked things up quickly. My spirit stat is far above average. Realization dawned on Qin Hao. Unfortunately, he possessed 0 experience points to test the allocation mechanics right now. Never mind. Let's head into the Pocket Pokemon Sanctuary first. I can earn experience later by finding sparring partners at the Pokemon Battle Club. Having made up his mind, Qin Hao dismissed the status screen. He looked toward Pidgeotto, perched on the back of his chair. Pidgeotto, I'm taking you somewhere wonderful. He reached out and rested a hand on the bird's body. With a thought, man and Pokemon vanished from the bedroom. A flash of light later, Qin Hao and Pidgeotto stood within dense woodland. This is the Pocket Pokemon Sanctuary? Qin Hao scanned his surroundings, filled with wonder. The sun hung high in a clear blue sky, and the air smelled wonderfully fresh. The forest echoed with the chirps of insects and birds. It was a miniature world with a complete self-sustaining ecosystem. Hi! Pidgeotto spread its wings and soared loops through the trees. Its cry carried obvious excitement. The sanctuary's environment was far superior to the city. Whether it could rival designated Pokemon sanctuaries remained unknown. Qin Hao had never visited one to compare. Still, he was thoroughly satisfied. Hi. Pidgeotto swooped down and landed firmly on the ground. Do you like this place, Pidgeotto? Qin Hao asked with a smile. Pai. Pidgeotto chirped and nodded repeatedly. Qin Hao knelt and gently stroked its plumage. Good. This will be our territory from now on. The sanctuary spanned 10,000 square kilometers, populated with ordinary wildlife, offering more than enough room for Pidgeotto to roam. It was permanently linked to Pidgeotto's Pokeball. Even if the bird stayed inside the sanctuary, Qin Hao could summon it at any time, either mentally or by tossing the Pokeball. That eliminated the risk of drawing unwanted attention when releasing his Pokemon. As he captured more Pokemon in the future, they could all reside within this space. I've heard luxury balls offer the most comfortable living conditions for Pokemon, but they pale in comparison to this sanctuary. A delighted smile tugged at Qin Hao's lips as he smoothed Pidgeotto's feathers. Best of all, he could enter the sanctuary himself. If disaster ever struck, this place would serve as a vital escape route. Pidgeotto, come with me to another place. After speaking, Qin Hao activated the world passage. A curtain of pale blue light instantly enveloped him and the bird. After a faint sensation of weightlessness, Qin Hao felt solid ground beneath his feet once more. Hi! Pidgeotto cried out in surprise, staring at the transformed landscape, as if asking for an explanation. Qin Hao chuckled. We've arrived in another world. Consider it a special power of mine. Hi! Shock flooded Pidgeotto's features, swiftly replaced by burning curiosity. I'll rely on you to keep me safe from now on. Hi! Pidgeotto let out a confident cry and tilted its head high. All right, first we need to find people and learn about this world. Qin Hao patted Pidgeotto's back and climbed onto its back. Don't fly too high, and keep your speed moderate. Pidgeotto beat its wings and lifted off, carrying Qin Hao skyward. A surge of upward force hit Qin Hao, but he braced himself and leaned low to stay balanced. Once they climbed several hundred meters high, their flight stabilized. A thin veil of translucent white energy emanated from Pidgeotto, wrapping around Qin Hao and shielding him from the fierce high-altitude winds. High above the ground, the dark silhouette streaked forward, the landscape rushing past beneath them. No wonder so many people take flying taxis. This really is thrilling. Seated on Pidgeotto's back, Qin Hao gazed out at the endless stretches of dense forest below. There were no visible signs of human settlement anywhere. I can't spot a single soul down there. Qin Hao sighed. It was nearly impossible to make out small details from hundreds of meters up. Hi! Pidgeotto suddenly let out a sharp cry. Qin Hao brightened at once. You found something? People. Hi! Pidgeotto confirmed. Descend slowly, and keep a safe distance first. Qin Hao gave his order without hesitation. Hi! Pidgeotto folded its wings and dove toward the treetops like a shooting star. Qin Hao hunched forward to avoid being thrown off. Soon they landed steadily on a thick tree branch. Qin Hao gripped Pidgeotto's feathers and climbed onto the sturdy bough. He did not need directions. Two voices drifted over to him. One was a terrified, urgent shout. The other belonged to a man speaking in a taunting tone. Just listening to their exchange allowed Qin Hao to picture the scene. A middle-aged man harassing a young nun. This scene feels familiar. Both of them clearly know martial arts. Qin Hao's eyes lit up as he watched the distant encounter, a guess forming in his mind. Pidgeotto, fly over quietly. Hit that man with sand attack, then strike the back of his head with air slash, and finish by charging his back with quick attack. Pidgeotto did not hesitate to follow Qin Hao's command. It spread its wings and glided silently forward. Qin Hao remained perched on the branch, waiting for the ambush to strike. Not far away, an ugly middle-aged man kept closing in on a nun. Stay back. Don't come closer. The tonsured nun fled frantically, her face twisted with terror. If you advance any further, I will fight you. She brandished her sword repeatedly, hoping to drive the man away. Yet he twisted and turned, effortlessly dodging every strike. Little master, you have such a lovely face. Come and keep me company for a while. He grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. We'll have a wonderful time together. He advanced slowly, enjoying the cat and mouse game. Go away. Leave me alone. The nun paled in fright and thrust her sword forward with all her strength. This dangerous weapon is not fit for you to wield. The middle-aged man snatched the sword. With one hand on the blade, he snapped the steel clean in two. Now it's my turn to approach you. He wore a malicious grin and stretched out his hands to seize her. At that critical moment, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air from above. Who's there? The man's expression shifted sharply as he looked upward. A cloud of sand slammed directly into his face, blinding him temporarily. Damn it! Who's sneaking up on me? Blinded, the man stumbled backward and drew a short blade from his waist, slashing wildly in every direction. His reflexes were impressive, yet futile. Pidgeotto soared upward before diving above the man's head. It flapped its wings hard, launching countless razor-thin air blades downward. The man shifted his feet rapidly, trying to evade the attack, but the air slash traveled too fast and struck home. Ah! A shrill scream echoed out. The man's right arm and left leg were severed cleanly, blood spraying from his wounds. Before he could recover, another gust of wind rushed toward him. A heavy impact sent him flying. He crashed violently into a large tree and slid to the ground, his chest pierced inward. He lay motionless. Everything unfolded in the blink of an eye. The nun, certain death awaited her only moments earlier, stood frozen, unable to process what had happened. Great work, Pidgeotto. The instant the ambush succeeded, Qin Hao jumped down from the tree and hurried forward. Ding! Pidgeotto has defeated Tian Buoguang. Gained 500 base experience points. Current Pidgeotto level, 21,882/1119. Host receives 50 skill experience points. Tian Buoguang. So this is the world of smiling, proud wanderer. Qin Hao's eyes flashed as he read the system notification. He turned toward the stunned nun. An eye of insight revealed her information. Lin identity. Disciple of Hengshan sect skills. Hengshan internal energy art. Hengshan swordsmanship. It really is Lin. Confirming her identity settled Qin Hao's mind. Now that he knew which world he had entered, he could plan his next moves. The martial arts power level of smiling, proud wanderer was not overwhelmingly high. As long as he remained cautious, he would face little danger. After all, Pidgeotto had only defeated Tian Boguang, thanks to a surprise ambush. Tian Boguang was a first-class martial artist in this realm and would pose a serious threat in a fair fight. It remained to be seen how Pidgeotto would fare against trained fighters in open combat. Still, the martial arts of this world held immense value. Countless sword styles, once learned, would greatly improve his battle tactics. I wonder how experience rewards are calculated for defeating humans. Qin Hao pondered briefly before setting the thought aside. It did not matter how the system calculated rewards. What mattered was that victory brought experience. Pi. Pidgeotto hopped over to Qin Hao and rubbed happily against his chest. Good job. Qin Hao smiled and scratched the top of its head. After a brief word of praise, he turned back toward Lin. Despite her shaved head, she possessed exquisite, breathtaking beauty. Her loose monastic robes could not conceal her graceful, slender figure. What a breathtakingly beautiful woman to become a nun. What a waste. The thought popped unbidden into Qin Hao's mind, yet he kept a gentle smile on his face. Little nun, are you all right? Qin Hao wore an exceptionally mild smile as he looked at Yilin, who still trembled with fright. I'm fine. Thank you for saving me, benefactor. Yilin snapped out of her daze and shook her head quickly, then bowed to Qin Hao in a Buddhist gesture of gratitude. That vicious outlaw deserves what he got. You need not thank me, little nun. Qin Hao waved his hand casually, not making much of the incident. But Yilin shook her head earnestly. I must thank you. If you hadn't stepped in today, I would have fallen into grave danger. I shall remember your great kindness always. With that, Yilin bowed deeply once more, her tone sincere. Please tell me your name, benefactor. I will pray for you before the Bodhisattva every single day. A soft smile tugged at Qin Hao's lips upon hearing this. If it were any other monk or nun, such words of prayer might be nothing but empty courtesy. But coming from Yilin, he knew she truly meant every word. My surname is Qin, given name Hao. You may call me Qin Hao. And this is my companion, Pidgeotto. Pi. The Pidgeotto standing beside them let out two cries toward Yilin. Then Qin brother, you don't have to address me as little nun. Just call me Yilin. Yilin nodded obediently, curiosity shining in her eyes as she looked at Pidgeotto. Qin brother, is Pidgeotto some kind of exotic beast? You could say that, Qin Hao replied with a grin. I have never seen such a powerful exotic beast before. Qin Hao raised an eyebrow at her words. A possibility crossed his mind, and he asked casually, are there other exotic beasts in this world? Yilin frowned faintly, first nodding, then shaking her head. I once heard my master speak of a divine eagle swordsman who lived more than 200 years ago. He owned an ugly giant eagle. This swordsman and his eagle once defended the city of Xiangyang against invading armies of the former dynasty. But it was so long ago, no one can be certain if the tale is true. Qin Hao's heart stirred after listening. She must be speaking of Yang Guo and his giant eagle. It seemed the worlds of the divine eagle legends, the smiling, proud wanderer, and other wuxia eras existed within one continuous realm. They were not separate planes connected through ascension, as countless fantasies from his past life claimed. With these vital pieces of information uncovered, he had accomplished most of his goals for this trip. Yilin, did you come here alone? Pushing his thoughts aside, Qin Hao asked, already knowing the answer. Oh no, I'd completely forgotten my master and senior sisters are searching for me. Alarm flashed across Yilin's face. She had only just realized her predicament. She had been suddenly abducted by Tian Boguang, and the other Hengshan sect members must be terribly worried. I'm sorry, Qin brother. My master will be frantic if I stay away any longer. I have to hurry back. Are you traveling to Hengyang City, Qin brother? Qin Hao slowly shook his head in response to her sudden question. I have other matters to attend to. I will not pass through Hengyang. I see. Yilin's expression visibly dimmed. The martial world seems vast, yet encounters happen easily. We will meet again someday. Qin Hao's mood remained calm as he offered simple comfort. Yilin could only force a smile and nod. You may go tend to your business, Qin brother. I intend to bury this body before I leave. Qin Hao frowned at her words. Yilin was far kinder and more innocent than he had expected. Even toward the outlaw who had seized her, she could not bear to leave his corpse exposed to the wilderness. Let me handle this instead. Qin Hao spoke up, taking responsibility. You've been gone far too long. Your master and senior sisters must be anxious. You ought to return and reassure them quickly. Well, I suppose I must trouble you then. Seeing Qin Hao's unyielding expression, Yilin agreed obediently. She departed slowly, glancing back again and again as she walked away. Only after Yilin vanished completely from sight did Qin Hao turn toward Tian Buoguang's remains. You can remain here for the wild beasts. Could this ruthless outlaw expect a proper burial after all his crimes? Qin Hao had already shown mercy enough simply by not reducing his corpse to dust. Let me search his body for anything he might carry, he thought. Accompanied by Pidgeotto, Qin Hao walked over to the corpse. Fighting back nausea, he searched the man's pockets. To his surprise, he found 3 martial arts manuals. Hurricane Blade Art, the Lightness Skill 3-Layered Clouds, and an unnamed Internal Energy Cultivation text, carrying combat manuals on his person. Is that standard practice among martial artists? Qin Hao silently mused. But thinking of Yu Buqian, who kept the Violet Divine Skill on his person, it hardly surprised him anymore. I will study these carefully once I return. Qin Hao stowed away the 3 manuals and picked up the short blade discarded beside the body. Once everything was done, he activated the world passage. Man and Pokemon vanished from the spot without warning. Qin Hao and Pidgeotto returned to his personal pocket dimension as his vision steadied. Well done, Pidgeotto. We'll head home shortly. Qin Hao smiled and patted Pidgeotto's back. Hi. Pidgeotto nodded, stretching its wings. World passage. Connected world. The smiling, proud wanderer current time flow ratio 1:1. A half-month cooldown applies after each trip. World search function. 1 new world may be located each year. A half-month wait between each activation of the passage. Qin Hao's eyes lit up with understanding as he read the information. There was no restriction on how long he could stay in another world. That was excellent news. The 1-year wait to discover new worlds was not a burden either. He would need plenty of time to process all the treasures and knowledge he gained from each realm. Qin Hao sat casually on the ground and pulled the 3 manuals out from his robes. He opened Hurricane Blade Art first and read the core principles laid out on the pages. Though many characters were unfamiliar, they did not hinder his understanding. Once he memorized the fundamental theories and illustrated stances, he closed the manual. As he focused his mind, his status panel materialized before him. His previously empty auxiliary skill slots had updated. Auxiliary skills, Hurricane Blade Art Initiate, 0/20. So long as I learn the complete technique, I can spend points to master it. No need for me to translate and decipher everything myself. A faint smile formed on Qin Hao's face, satisfied with this feature. He repeated the process, carefully reading the other 2 manuals. 2 more incomplete skills appeared on his panel. Auxiliary skills, Hurricane Blade Art Initiate, 0/20. 3-Layered Clouds Initiate, 0/20. Evergreen Cultivation Initiate, 0/100. Internal arts require far more experience points just to get started than combat techniques. Qin Hao pondered quietly, choosing not to invest points hastily. After all, he only possessed 50 skill experience points. Careful planning was necessary. He soon noticed something remarkable. Pidgeotto. Special moves. Hurricane Blade Art Initiate, 0/20. High Compatibility 3-Layered Clouds Initiate, 0/20. Low Compatibility Evergreen Cultivation Initiate, 0/100. Low Compatibility. Points invested will automatically adapt techniques into Pokemon moves. Qin Hao gasped in shock. Not only could he learn these arts, his captured Pokemon could receive skill upgrades as well. This was incredible. After the brief rush of excitement, Qin Hao formed a plan. He lacked enough experience to master the internal cultivation method, but he had enough to achieve initial proficiency in the 2 combat arts. Invest points. After expending 42 skill experience points, he unlocked initial mastery of the Lightness Skill, 3-Layered Clouds, while Pidgeotto gained initiation in Hurricane Blade Art. Let me test this. Feeling the new power flowing through his body, Qin Hao took a sudden step forward. He darted several meters away, his toes barely brushing the ground as his figure shifted and twisted constantly. Hi. Pidgeotto stared, startled by the display. Even if this speed was unimpressive to the bird, seeing Qin Hao wield an ability he had never possessed before filled it with confusion and curiosity. Phew. Qin Hao halted his movement, wiping sweat from his forehead as he found his rhythm. This is what it feels like to command new power. The sensation is indescribably wonderful. Qin Hao drew a deep breath, exhilarated. If only he had more skill experience. He ached to max out the blade art, lightness skill, and internal cultivation all at once. But this shortage was only temporary. Countless battles awaited him in the future, and skill experience would no longer be scarce. Pidgeotto, try using Hurricane Blade Art. Having tested his own lightness skill, it was time to verify Pidgeotto's new technique. Hi. Pidgeotto tilted its head as it groomed its feathers, looking confused. It did not recall learning any blade art. But after a moment of thought, its body moved instinctively. It spread its wings and struck outward with fierce momentum. Its broad wings cut through the air like sharp blades, stirring powerful gusts wherever they swept. Amazing! Qinhao watched in silent awe. Though he knew little of swordplay, he could sense the profound craft within Hurricane Blade Art. Also known as the 13 forms of flying sand and scattering stones, the art prioritized speed and unpredictable stances. The core principle was to strike first, unleashing attacks that swept forward like raging winds, overwhelming foes with relentless rapid strikes. Furthermore, each stance contained 3 or 4 subtle variations, creating an erratic yet impenetrable rhythm of assault. And this was merely the beginner level of Hurricane Blade Art. Once proficiency rose, who could say whether it might outmatch close-quarters fighting-type Pokémon? Pidgeotto finished its sequence and froze. It stared at its own wings before chirping urgently toward Qinhao. You're wondering where that move came from? Qinhao laughed, understanding the bird's question. Pidgeotto nodded repeatedly. Think of it as one of my special abilities. I can grant Pokémon extraordinary new techniques. Qinhao stroked the top of Pidgeotto's head cheerfully. Hurricane Blade Art is only the beginning. You will master countless amazing powers and grow stronger and stronger from here on. Pidgeotto gradually calmed after hearing his explanation. Its gaze turned resolute, and its admiration for Qinhao reached new heights. Pidgeotto. Affection, 243/255. Noticing the shift in affection value, Qinhao's smile widened. Rest well now, Pidgeotto. We will head to the Pokémon Center for battle training once school starts. Qinhao ruffled the bird's plumage and spoke gently. Pidgeotto agreed. After a brief discussion, Pidgeotto chose to remain inside the pocket dimension. Compared to the outside world, it preferred the open wilderness of this space. Truth be told, Qinhao also loved the pocket dimension. Unfortunately, the land consisted only of forests and marshland, with no shelter from wind and rain. It was far from comfortable to live in. Someday he would have to build a courtyard within this dimension. Back in his bedroom, Qinhao flopped heavily onto the soft bed. The day's events had worn him out, yet excitement lingered deep inside him. Hurry and hatch, little one. Qinhao leaned over and gently touched the exterior of the incubator. Compared to Pidgeotto, the martial arts from the smiling, proud wanderer would suit Farfetch'd far better. He could hardly wait for the day his Farfetch'd became a sword master. Early the next morning, after breakfast, Qinhao left home wearing his school uniform. He kept a shrunken pokeball clipped to his belt loop. Pidgeotto was not inside the ball, however, it remained free within the pocket dimension. Summer still lingered, yet the morning air carried a refreshing coolness. Few students wearing elite middle school uniforms wandered along the streets. Elite Middle School operated as a boarding institution, publicly advertised as semi-militarized. Students were required to live on campus unless their guardians rented accommodation nearby to stay with them. Fortunately for Qinhao, he had scored top marks in Jiangzhou's high school entrance examination and lived close enough to the campus to qualify as a day student. 20 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. As Qinhao stepped into Class 1, Grade 1, a wave of noisy chatter washed over him. Free from their parents and placed in a brand new environment, the teenagers had fully let loose. Boys chased each other along the aisles, while girls clustered together chatting in small groups. The classroom buzzed like a bustling market. Well now. Qinhao raised an eyebrow and slipped quietly into the room. His arrival immediately drew the attention of many female students. Several nudged their friends, whispering among themselves with varied expressions. Qinhao was long accustomed to such attention. He possessed a striking appearance in this life. Now entering adolescence, he had grown tall, without suffering teenage acne, truly handsome. To girls also experiencing the stirrings of youth, he held undeniable appeal. Qinhao, a bright, surprised voice suddenly rang out. Qinhao turned toward the sound and saw Deng Xiaoqi's youthful, lovely face. Her eyes curved gently, clear joy visible on her features. Qinhao smiled faintly and walked over with his backpack slung over one shoulder. What a coincidence, Deng Xiaoqi. We're in the same class. Yes, what wonderful luck. Deng Xiaoqi's cheeks flushed slightly as she nodded, gazing at his handsome face. In truth, Deng Xiaoqi had been waiting for ages. She had spotted Qinhao's name on the class roster displayed on the electronic notice board during registration. The previous day, no one could imagine how elated she had been to discover they would be classmates. She had worried it might simply be someone sharing the same name. Yet all her nervous uncertainty vanished the instant she saw Qin Hao walk into the classroom. I'm glad we're classmates. I look forward to learning alongside you this year. Qin Hao extended his right hand toward the tall young woman with a smile. Deng Xiaoqi blushed and smiled sweetly, maintaining composure as she slowly offered her own hand. I'm glad to be your friend too. Their brief handshake ended when Qin Hao pulled away first. He set down his backpack and glanced around the classroom once more. Has the teacher not arrived yet? How do we choose seats? Deng Xiaoqi shook her head. No sign of any teacher. Everyone just picked a seat at random. The desk in front of me is empty. You can sit there, Qin Hao. Sounds good. Qin Hao accepted the offer, placed his backpack down and sat. Deng Xiaoqi quietly rejoiced as she returned to her own seat. Since head teacher Zhao Rongbao had not shown up, Qin Hao did not mind chatting with the pretty girl for a while. He twisted sideways to face Deng Xiaoqi sitting behind him. Noticing faint weariness etched between her brows as she grew slightly flustered under his gaze. He spoke. You look exhausted. Did you sleep poorly last night? Deng Xiaoqi opened up readily at his question. The school beds have such hard mattresses. I couldn't get used to them. I barely slept a wink all night. That happens at first. You'll grow accustomed to it with time. Qin Hao smiled, holding back overly sentimental words. Deng Xiaoqi pouted softly at his reply. Don't boys struggle to sleep in unfamiliar surroundings either? Qin Hao shook his head calmly. I can't speak for others, but I never usually have trouble sleeping in new places. Besides, I'm a day student, so I won't face that problem. You're a day student? How lucky. I miss my comfortable bed at home so much. Unfortunately, my parents are swamped with work and can't rent a place near the school to stay with me. Her tone softened with melancholy as she spoke, and she looked toward Qin Hao with a hint of envy. Qin Hao let out a quiet laugh and said nothing further. At that moment, another girl hurried into the classroom. Hey Xiaoqi, I've made some new friends. She paused when she spotted Qin Hao, stunned for a moment, inwardly marveling. Is this what people online call god-tier good looks? He's extraordinarily handsome. Qin Hao waved lightly at the girl staring at him in surprise. I'm Qin Hao. Are you a good friend of Xiaoqi's? The girl snapped out of her daze and nodded, overcome with awkwardness. Xiaoqi and I are roommates, and we hit it off the moment we met. Oh right, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lin Miao Miao. Qin Hao had recognized the girl the second she appeared. Her casually cut bob that reached her neck, the thick black-rimmed glasses perched on her nose, paired with her boisterous way of speaking, made her an instantly recognizable figure. Her looks were largely hidden by her getup, yet she still came across as adorable. Nice to meet you, Lin Miao Miao. Just call me Miao Miao. Want some dried fruit? Lin Miao Miao waved her hand casually and held out the snack toward him. Thanks. Qin Hao didn't stand on ceremony and took the dried fruit. A soft, mellow texture filled his mouth, followed by a gentle sweetness spreading across his tongue. See? Isn't it delicious? Lin Miao Miao asked, eyes full of anticipation. Qin Hao smiled and nodded. It tastes pretty good. At his reply, Lin Miao Miao's eyes crinkled happily. Of course it is. This is my favorite snack. Want some too, Xiaoqi? Deng Xiaoqi shook her head firmly and was about to speak when Zhao Rongbao strode into the classroom. All right, everyone. Take your seats quickly. Zhao Rongbao pushed up his glasses and waved at all the students in the room. The previously noisy classroom fell silent at once. Everyone stopped chattering and hurried to find empty seats. Welcome to Elite High School. A quick introduction. I'm Zhao Rongbao, your head teacher. I'll be in charge of all your academic and daily matters for the next year. Zhao Rongbao wrote his name on the blackboard, then turned around and spoke clearly. Before we start class, we have one task to finish, the opening semester cleaning. His words stirred a commotion. Most students groaned in protest, while only a handful looked excited. No morning classes? That's amazing. Lin Miao Miao, sitting to Deng Xiaoqi's left, whispered excitedly. Qin Hao heard the noise behind him and shook his head with a faint smile. Drawing on 2 lifetimes of school experience, he knew the big cleanup would take at most 2 hours. That meant the first formal class would start around 10 o'clock. It was wishful thinking to hope they could avoid lessons by dragging out the cleaning. Quiet down, everyone. Zhao Rongbao held up his hands slightly to calm the crowd. We've got limited time and plenty of work, so I'll assign tasks now. Boys, let's show some gentlemanly spirit. Half of you will carry the old desks downstairs and bring the new furniture back up to the classroom. The rest of you head to the library to collect textbooks. Girls will stay here to clean the floors, walls, and windows. Nearly no one objected to Zhao Rongbao's arrangement. They'd dealt with chores like this countless times growing up. Besides, interactions between boys and girls in this world were far less complicated than in his past life, and teenage relationships were generally pure and straightforward. Now, can I ask who here is Qian Sanyi? Zhao Rongbao adjusted his glasses and scanned the students. Everyone turned their heads, looking around curiously. Just then, a tall, thin boy sitting in the last row raised his hand. He said nothing, his blank expression making him seem cold and reserved. So you're Qian Sanyi. Zhao Rongbao studied him for a moment and nodded gently. You and Qin Hao are my top students. You two don't need to carry desks. Qian Sanyi, take a few boys to collect textbooks from the library. Qin Hao, coordinate everyone to stack the old desks neatly downstairs. Come on, move quickly. Zhao Rongbao clapped his hands to urge everyone into action. Wait, why don't you two have to carry desks? The second Zhao Rongbao finished speaking, Lin Miao Miao stood up and grumbled at Qin Hao. Watching the stream of students start moving furniture, Qin Hao shrugged with a smile. I guess that's teacher Zhao's special treatment for top-performing students. Lin Miao Miao was left speechless and rolled her eyes instinctively. She'd encountered this kind of unfairness time and time again. Being good at school isn't everything. It's so unfair. I may not get top grades, but I work honestly and never slack off. Still annoyed after venting, Lin Miao Miao turned toward the desk in front of her. Just as she prepared to duck down and lift it, Qin Hao stepped forward first, hoisting one desk in each hand. Hey, I was just joking. Miao Miao, you and Xiaoqi should stay in the classroom to clean. He added quickly. Though if you really want to move desks, take it slow so you don't slip. With that reminder, he carried the desks out of the classroom. Lin Miao Miao only snapped out of her daze once his figure disappeared. Miao Miao, don't be upset. Let's go wipe the windows, Deng Xiaoqi said softly, taking her hand. No way. I keep my word. If I said I'm carrying desks, I won't back down. Stand back a little, Xiaoqi, don't get knocked into. After speaking, Lin Miao Miao hefted her desk onto her shoulders and walked out of the room. Make way, coming through. After a chaotic dash, Lin Miao Miao finally caught up to Qin Hao. Take it easy. Qin Hao turned around and said helplessly at the commotion. Lin Miao Miao grinned widely, unfazed. Don't worry, I've got plenty of strength. Nothing's going to happen. I overreacted just now. What you said wasn't too bad, so I'm happy to call you my friend. Her straightforward declaration made Qin Hao laugh. Lin Miao Miao was outspoken, yet fair-minded. With her playful, lively personality, life would definitely be fun having her as a friend. Then I'm honored to earn your friendship, Miss Lin Miao Miao. Qin Hao teased cheerfully. Of course you are. Lin Miao Miao lifted her chin, unfazed by his banter, and played along. Thanks to the whole class working together, the classroom was soon spotless. Brand new desks and chairs stood neatly arranged, with a set of textbooks placed on each surface. Boys and girls were assigned seats according to their height. Excellent work. Everyone put in a lot of effort. We've pulled off a great cleanup. Zhao Rongbao smiled with satisfaction as he stood on the podium, looking over the renewed classroom. Next up, we'll take turns introducing ourselves. You'll be studying and living alongside each other for a long time. After all, we'll start from the first row, come up to the platform one by one. Zhao Rongbao stepped aside and beckoned to the petite girl closest to the front door. Hello everyone, my name is... One student after another stepped onto the podium. Some were quiet and shy, others energetic and outgoing, all with distinct personalities. For most people, it was impossible to remember every classmate from a short introduction. It would take time spent together to learn everyone's names and faces. Qin Hao's mind wandered, until a tall girl walked up to the podium. She had delicate features, paired with a quiet, cool aura. My name is Su Qin. I dream of becoming a doctor. It's nice to meet you all. Qin Hao's eyes widened the moment he heard her introduction. It was Su Qin. She'd also ended up at elite high school. He subtly scanned the classroom, yet spotted no one matching the appearance of a certain boy he knew. Still, in this mixed world filled with all kinds of people, meeting familiar faces, or not, was hardly surprising. As he stared at her gentle features, a strange thought crossed his mind. He knew this seemingly well-behaved girl would face many struggles in the years ahead, weighed down by strict family expectations. Many teenagers who live under tight restrictions often grow curious about the freedom they lack. Hey, what are you staring at? Lin Miao Miao, sitting behind Qin Hao, noticed his gaze and poked his back quietly. Qin Hao leaned back in his chair and tilted his head backward. Nothing much, just trying to memorize everyone's faces early on. Nice try. I saw you zoning out just now, Lin Miao Miao mocked quietly, half sprawled across her desk. I bet you think Su Qin's really pretty, and you're checking out all the other girls in class. Qin Hao found her smug guess utterly amusing. If she knew he wasn't simply admiring her looks, but thinking about someone else, she would be shocked. When Qin Hao stayed silent, Lin Miao Miao grew more convinced she was right. She smiled teasingly and poked his back again. Don't bother searching. I've already gotten to know all the girls in our class. There are several pretty ones, but only Xiaoqi can compare with Su Qin. Best of all, both beauties are my roommates. Jealous yet? Qin Hao shot back without hesitation. What's there to be jealous of? They're the pretty ones, not you. Besides, living with two gorgeous girls, wouldn't you feel the pressure of sticking out in comparison? Lin Miao Miao's cheerful expression faded instantly. Even if she rarely cared about appearance, every girl cared about how she looked, deep down. There's no pressure at all. Our dorm doesn't compete over looks or bully anyone. And sticking out? That's such a harsh thing to say. If Xiaoqi and Su Qin stand out, someone's got to balance it out, right? Liang Yinshu and I fill that role. Qin Hao smiled warmly at her words. It sounded like she was downplaying herself, but Lin Miao Miao was being far too modest. Neither she nor Liang Yinshu were plain-looking. Both had their beauty hidden behind hairstyles and glasses. Once they changed up their appearance, they might not outshine Su Qin and Deng Xiaoqi, but they would easily hold their own. When they matured fully, all four girls would each have their own unique charm. Wait a second, do you have a crush on Su Qin? Lin Miao Miao nudged his shoulder sneakily. When did you become such a gossip? Quit spreading baseless rumors. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly and sat up straight, ending their chat. After the self-introductions came the election for class cadres. Unsurprisingly, Zhao Rongbao appointed Lin Miao Miao as the sanitation monitor on the spot. He had originally wanted Qin Hao to take the position of class monitor or study committee member, but Qin Hao turned him down, explaining he was a day student. Once all arrangements were settled, the first official class of the semester began, just as expected. The clock struck 12 noon. Light piano music echoed over the school speakers. Zhao Rongbao had been lecturing enthusiastically from the podium, but fell silent at the bell. All right, that's all for today. Class dismissed, go get lunch. Though he wanted to keep teaching, Zhao Rongbao decided not to hold them back. It wouldn't make a good impression on the first day of school. Qin Hao, don't leave yet. Come get your meal card from me. Zhao Rongbao tossed his chalk aside and waved him over. Qin Hao put his math textbook into his desk drawer and hurried up to the podium. Here you go, your school-issued meal card. The school will transfer living expenses onto it at the end of every month. Don't spend too much on junk food from the convenience store, all right? Zhao Rongbao pushed up his glasses and reminded him earnestly. Qin Hao nodded with a soft smile. Don't worry, Teacher Zhao. I'll spend it wisely. Good. Off you go to lunch. Qin Hao took the campus card and walked out of the classroom. As soon as he stepped through the doorway, Lin Miao Miao waved at him from the hallway. Took you long enough to come out. She hurried over the moment he drew near. Hurry up, or all the best dishes will be gone. Qin Hao glanced down at the small hand tugging his arm and gently pulled free. I'm coming. Why did you wait for me anyway? What kind of question is that? Lin Miao Miao stiffened, her gaze drifting awkwardly. Everyone knows I'm loyal to my friends. Of course I wouldn't leave you behind. Qin Hao did not buy her excuse, looking at her with amusement. Lin Miao Miao couldn't stand his stare and finally relented. Fine, fine. It was Xiaoqi who suggested waiting for you. I knew it. You're obsessed with food. You'd race to the cafeteria the second the bell rings. You'd never wait for me voluntarily. Qin Hao was not at all surprised. When it came to eating, nothing mattered more to food lover Lin Miao Miao. See? Xiaoqi's the loyal one. It's nothing. We're good friends after all. Deng Xiaoqi beamed, delighted by the compliment. We already waited for you. Don't be so picky. Lin Miao Miao rolled her eyes at her smitten roommate. As the saying goes, if you're not eager for meals, there's something wrong with your mindset. Stop chatting and pick up the pace. If my favorite chicken drumsticks are sold out, I'll hold you responsible. She bared her teeth playfully at Qin Hao to emphasize her threat. To Qin Hao, the gesture looked far more cute than intimidating. The three of them quickened their pace and left the teaching building. The midday sun blazed overhead, and students streamed outside excitedly. As they reached the cafeteria entrance, rich food aromas washed over them. The hall was as noisy as always. Long queues snaked in front of every serving window, and students wandered by carrying trays non-stop. Quick, quick! Lin Miao Miao dragged Deng Xiaoqi to join one of the shorter lines. Once she stopped, she kept tiptoeing to peer ahead. Her impatient look drew another smile from Qin Hao. He wasn't mocking her, simply filled with nostalgia. He remembered being equally restless and energetic when he was younger. But times had changed. He could rarely live as carefree as Lin Miao Miao now. Hey Haozi, we got our meal cards yesterday. Why did Teacher Zhao only give you yours today? Growing restless as the line moved slowly, Lin Miao Miao turned and voiced her curiosity. Qin Hao twitched slightly at the new nickname, yet didn't object, answering calmly. I don't board at school. I headed home right after registration yesterday. I get it now? No wonder. Lin Miao Miao nodded. then grinned teasingly. You've got it rough then. Us boarders have way more freedom than day students. Really? I heard boarders have to get up at 6:30 for morning runs and stay for evening self-study until 9 after dinner before heading back to the dorms. Meanwhile, I can head home before 7 and use my phone. Chin Hao smiled, equally teasing. Still better than being watched by your parents nonstop at home, Lin Miao Miao retorted with a pout. Her words wiped the smile off Chin Hao's face instantly. My parents passed away. I live alone now. Lin Miao Miao and Deng Xiaoqi froze at once. Realizing she'd said something insensitive, Lin Miao Miao rushed to apologize. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about your parents. She scratched her head anxiously, stumbling over her words. Chin Hao waved his hand gently. It's all right. I know you didn't mean any harm. I've long gotten used to it. His tone stayed calm. That's not enough. Lin Miao Miao shook her head firmly. Her eyes rolled as an idea popped into her head. Let me treat you to lunch to make up for my careless comment. There's really no need. I eat quite a lot. If you feel that bad, just buy me a bottle of drink this afternoon. Chin Hao shook his head and declined again. But Lin Miao Miao's stubborn side showed. Her face set with determination. You live by yourself. How much could you possibly eat? It's settled. My treat. Lunch is on Boss Miao Miao. She waved her hand grandly. All right, if you insist, I won't turn you down. They reached the service window as they talked. Howsy, you go first. Lin Miao Miao pushed Chin Hao forward without giving him a choice. After briefly glancing over the menu, Chin Hao made up his mind without further hesitation. Auntie, could I get 2 portions of braised pork, 2 servings of sweet and sour ribs, 1 stir-fried pork with chili peppers, 3 chicken drumsticks, 1 tomato scrambled egg, 1 stir-fried shredded cabbage, plus 4 steamed buns. The cafeteria server and Lin Miao Miao standing behind him froze the moment he finished listing all the dishes. Young man, can you finish all of this? The cafeteria aunt asked instinctively. Lin Miao Miao quickly nodded in agreement. Right. You ordered far too much. It'll go to waste if you can't finish it. Don't worry, auntie. I've got quite an appetite. I'll clear every bit. Chin Hao replied simply, then turned to look at Lin Miao Miao behind him. I told you I eat a lot. How about I pay with my card myself? No need. I said I'd cover it. Lin Miao Miao shook her head, inwardly wincing at the upcoming expense. She spoke through gritted teeth. If you end up unable to eat all this, you're in big trouble. Chin Hao grinned. Rest assured, I'll clean the plates completely. Even though he had ordered an enormous amount of food, the cafeteria aunt filled the plates dutifully. The cafeteria-style meals not only looked appetizing but were served in generous portions. Thank you, auntie. Chin Hao nodded politely and took hold of the 2 heavy trays. In stark contrast to Chin Hao's hearty order, Deng Xiaoqi only picked 2 vegetarian dishes, stir-fried broccoli, shredded lettuce stir-fry, along with a small bowl of rice. The difference between their meals could not have been more obvious. Xiaoqi, is that all you're having? We have physical education class this afternoon. Chin Hao reminded her softly as he looked at the greens on Deng Xiaoqi's tray. I watch my calorie intake regularly to avoid putting on weight, Deng Xiaoqi explained quietly. She had trained in dance since childhood and maintained strict standards for her figure. Chin Hao studied Deng Xiaoqi carefully and voiced his thoughts. Honestly, you're already slim enough, Xiaoqi. Too much restraint works against you. What's more, I think you'd look even nicer with a little more softness to your frame. His words brought a faint blush to Deng Xiaoqi's cheeks, and she fell into quiet hesitation. Just then, Lin Miao Miao arrived with her tray. What are you all standing around for? Let's find seats quickly. We were waiting for you, Chin Hao said. The 3 chatted as they wove through the bustling cafeteria and soon spotted empty seats. However, when Chin Hao carried his trays toward a table further back, Lin Miao Miao looked thoroughly confused. Hey Haozi, there's space right across from us. Why won't you sit with Xiaoqi and me? Chin Hao rolled his eyes at her straightforward questioning. Take a good look around. Do you see boys and girls sharing tables anywhere in this cafeteria? Hearing this, Lin Miao Miao and Deng Xiaoqi lifted their heads to scan the room. Just as Chin Hao said, the huge cafeteria was clearly divided. Boys sat at separate tables from girls. Even if only one girl occupied a table, no boy would take the remaining seats. If such a situation ever arose, a teacher would step in promptly and ask them to move to different tables. What's this rule? We can't even eat together? Lin Miao Miao looked utterly baffled. Before Chin Hao could reply, another voice cut in. You've hit the nail on the head. Elite high school forbids boys and girls from dining at the same table in the cafeteria. A figure sat down beside Chin Hao and grinned at the 3 of them. Let me introduce myself. I'm Jiang Tianhao. We're classmates. Chin Hao. Chin Hao nodded briefly and shook hands with him. Though Jiang Tianhao had initiated the greeting, His eyes kept drifting subtly toward Deng Xiaoqi standing behind them. It was plain to see he had developed a crush on her. Even though their class had another girl, Su Qin, who was equally attractive, his attention had settled on Deng Xiaoqi. It seemed Jiang Tianhao was set to chase after her without much hope of reciprocation. Qinhao mused over this as Lin Miao Miao let out a complaint. This is ridiculous. Making such a fuss just over sharing a table. Small school with endless silly rules. Jiang Tianhao laughed heartily at her remark. What can we do? We're students here after all. You'll get used to it over time. I spent 3 years in the junior high section of this school and slowly adapted to all these strict regulations. His words sparked Lin Miao Miao's curiosity. Did you go to elite's junior high too? Yep. I studied here for 3 years. I got automatic admission to senior high as a sports special talent and hold 2 city junior division athletic records. I'm practically an old-timer at elite high. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions. As he spoke, Jiang Tianhao winked at Deng Xiaoqi. But Deng Xiaoqi was caught off guard by the gesture. She frowned instinctively and shot him a cold glance. She ignored his attempt to strike up conversation, her manner distinctly distant and unwelcoming. Rebuffed, Jiang Tianhao did not lose his poise. He turned back as if nothing had happened. Qinhao watched the exchange and struggled to hold back a laugh. At that moment, a female teacher wearing glasses walked over. Focus on eating. Stop turning around and chatting. Yes, teacher. Jiang Tianhao nodded quickly and turned forward to eat. Seeing this, Qinhao fell silent as well and began eating heartily. The cafeteria food at Elite High really was quite good. The braised pork was tender and flavorful without excess grease, and all the other dishes tasted excellent. Qinhao resolved to eat dinner at school before heading home from now on. That way, he would never have to worry about what to cook in the evening. Once they finished eating, the group walked out of the cafeteria together. You actually finished everything. Lin Miao Miao stared at Qinhao in surprise. Jiang Tianhao beside her also looked shocked. I told you I have a big appetite, Qinhao shrugged casually. In truth, his appetite had suddenly grown larger starting the previous day, more precisely, right after he spent skill points to learn the triple cloud leap lightness skill. Not only could he eat far more food, his physical stats rose slowly as he consumed large amounts of meals. He suspected all of this stemmed from his system. Regardless, it was a welcome change for Qinhao. Speaking of which, I heard second-year students have Pokemon-focused classes. Why don't we see anyone bringing their Pokemon around? Lin Miao Miao suddenly turned toward Jiang Tianhao as they walked across campus. Seizing the perfect chance to impress Deng Xiaoqi, Jiang Tianhao cleared his throat and smiled. It's normal that you newcomers don't know this rule. The school regulations clearly state first-year students cannot bring Pokemon onto campus. Even second and third-year students are only allowed to release their Pokemon inside the designated training grounds and Pokemon cafeteria. He tilted his chin toward a building not far away. See that building over there? That's the Pokemon cafeteria. Qinhao understood the reasoning after hearing the explanation. Pokemon each have unique personalities. While captured Pokemon grow attached to humans and are tamer than wild ones, they could still act unpredictably without proper supervision. Accidents would be inevitable without strict management. Does that mean we can only train our Pokemon on campus starting in grade 2? Qinhao asked. Jiang Tianhao nodded. Exactly. First year mainly focuses on laying foundations, teaching basic academic knowledge about Pokemon. Upperclassmen have mentioned occasional Pokemon battle training during PE lessons, though. Most of the time, PE consists of practicing a fitness routine. Pokemon possess formidable strength. To command them well, trainers need sharp reflexes and robust physical fitness. This fitness routine was modified by national experts based on traditional martial arts. It exercises every muscle group comprehensively and greatly improves physical conditioning. National policy requires all first-year high school students to learn and master this routine proficiently. Jiang Tianhao was extremely well informed, and Qinhao learned plenty of useful information from him. You know so much. Lin Miao Miao exclaimed. Of course, Jiang Tianhao lifted his chin proudly. I aim to become an outstanding Pokemon trainer, so I've made it a point to learn everything I can ahead of time. None of the group found this surprising. If you stopped 10 random people on the street, more than half would dream of becoming Pokemon trainers. Yet very few people ultimately achieve that goal. Universities have high admission standards for trainer programs, and spots are limited. The path of an independent trainer is even harder. While the occupation sounded glamorous, building a reputation required immense effort. One needed financial support, outstanding personal ability, and more than a little luck. I've given up on being a trainer. I don't enjoy constant battles. Lin Miao Miao shook her head without hesitation after listening to Jiang Tianhao. but I really like Pokemon. Maybe I'll become a Pokemon breeder someday. She turned to Deng Xiaoqi. What about you, Xiaoqi? Caught off guard by the question, Deng Xiaoqi shared her dreams softly. I plan to work toward becoming a Pokemon coordinator while pursuing a career as an actress. Jiang Tianhao jumped in immediately to offer praise. You're so beautiful, Xiaoqi. You'll definitely become a huge star someday. Thank you. Deng Xiaoqi replied politely, yet her tone remained cool and distant. Jiang Tianhao felt discouraged by her lack of warmth and forced an awkward smile. Seeing Jiang Tianhao repeatedly meet with cold responses, Qin Hao steered the conversation elsewhere. We have PE class this afternoon. You two should head back to the dormitories to rest. I'm going back to the classroom for a quick nap too. Jiang Tianhao spoke up quickly. Qin Hao, the school reserved a dorm bed for you. You can go rest there during lunch break. Qin Hao had expected this, but shook his head. Not today. I haven't brought my bed sheets and covers. I'll use the dorm for rest starting tomorrow once I bring them over. After bidding Lin Miao Miao and the others farewell, Qin Hao walked back to the classroom alone. The room was empty. Everyone had returned to the dormitories for midday rest. Qin Hao rested his head on the desk and mulled over everything Jiang Tianhao had told him. A fitness routine that boosts physical fitness? I hope it lives up to all the hype. With this thought in mind, he slowly closed his eyes. Nearly an hour later, the ringing school bell broke the silence. Qin Hao opened his eyes. The classroom was still empty. He stretched and stepped outside. When he reached the sports field, classmates began arriving one after another. Soon, a muscular man dressed in sportswear showed up. Class monitor of Class 1, Grade 1, gather everyone, he shouted, his voice loud and resonant. Jiang Tianhao hurried forward upon hearing him and clapped his hands toward the crowd. Stop chatting and line up quickly. Form rows from shortest to tallest. Girls in front, boys behind. Under Jiang Tianhao's direction, the queue formed quickly. Sir, Class 1, Grade 1 is fully assembled. Good. Return to your place. The PE teacher nodded in satisfaction and waved Jiang Tianhao back into line. Once Jiang Tianhao returned to position, the teacher continued speaking. My name is Li Li. I'm your PE teacher. You can call me Teacher Li. High school PE won't be as lax as it was in junior high. School rules forbid unexcused absences. Come find me to request leave if anything comes up. That applies even to girls feeling unwell during menstruation. Is that understood? The group nodded obediently at his booming question. Yes, teacher. Excellent. Today, I'll teach you this fitness routine. Li folded his arms and scanned every student. Some of you may have already heard this routine was revised by national specialists to strengthen physical health. Physical fitness forms the foundation for anyone hoping to become a Pokemon trainer. Even if you don't aim to be a trainer, consistent practice will boost your health and energy, benefiting all your studies. Pay close attention. Your proficiency will count toward your final grade. The students grew serious the moment they heard the routine would factor into their grades. Pleased by their reaction, Li nodded. I will demonstrate the full routine once first. I'll slow every movement to minimum speed. Watch carefully. As soon as he finished speaking, Li settled into a ready stance. His hips and torso moved in perfect coordination. His motions were unhurried yet crisp. What looked like simple isolated movements flowed together like a martial arts set. As he shifted between stances, his limbs and spine resembled taut bows. The opening movements were relatively straightforward, but they grew increasingly complex as the routine progressed. Even after performing the whole sequence, Li only looked slightly flushed with sweat on his forehead, maintaining steady, regular breathing. 15 minutes later, Li finished the final pose and slowly returned to a neutral stance, breathing slightly heavily. Did everyone see clearly? Nearly all the teenagers shook their heads. Jiang Tianhao worked up the courage to speak loudly. Teacher Li, we watched, but we've already forgotten most of it. Right, Teacher Li. We can't memorize everything after just one demonstration, Lin Miao Miao added. Li laughed at their scattered replies. Naturally, this routine was refined by national experts. If it were easy to master on one viewing, we PE teachers wouldn't need to guide you step by step. Don't worry though. We have 3 PE lessons every week. If you apply yourselves, most of you will grasp the basics within 2 months. By this point, Li's breathing had steadied. He clapped his hands. All right, I'll demonstrate once more. This time I'll explain each movement's key points. Follow along with me. The students spread out to create enough space, and Class 1, Grade 1 began practicing. Compared to Li's polished form, almost everyone moved clumsily. Several students moved their arms and legs out of sync. The young students were easily distracted, snickering when they spotted classmates performing awkwardly. The atmosphere lacked focus, slowing progress drastically. Qin Hao stood apart from the group, observing Li Li's movements intently. He memorized every detail, including the matching breathing rhythm. Presently, his system character panel updated quietly. Other skills: Gale Blade Technique uninitiated, 0/20ths. Triple Cloud Leap initiated, 1/50th. Evergreen Skill uninitiated, 0/100ths. Body Tempering Fist uninitiated, 0/30ths. So this fitness routine is actually called Body Tempering Fist. It really is a martial arts set. Qin Hao realized with a new understanding as he glanced at the newly listed skill. Yet Body Tempering Fist required more experience points to advance than Gale Blade Technique and Triple Cloud Leap. Evidently, this fist art was far more sophisticated. Could this Body Tempering Fist have been created by extraordinary practitioners? The thought crossed Qin Hao's mind, and it seemed increasingly plausible. This fist art included breathing exercises that enhanced physical condition and appeared more advanced than the martial arts he had acquired from the smiling, proud wanderer world. He wondered quietly whether cultivating Body Tempering Fist to perfection would let him sense internal energy. Unfortunately, he lacked sufficient skill points to invest in upgrades, leaving him eager to earn more experience. I'll head into the city after school. I can look for opponents to battle at the Pokemon Center. Qin Hao settled on this plan. He had nothing to do once he got home anyway, so traveling to the city for Pokemon battles was worthwhile. Elite High School was not far from downtown. The bus ride took roughly an hour and a half. Accounting for travel time, he would still have 1 to 2 hours available for battles. Though the trip was somewhat troublesome, every opportunity to gain experience justified the effort. Time passed quickly after that. Apart from PE class in the afternoon, he attended Pokemon studies, physics, and geography. The timetable was packed tight, with only 10-minute breaks between lessons. Elite High deserved its reputation as a provincial demonstration key school, boasting high-quality teaching. Class 1, Grade 1 was an experimental class filled with top-tier students, staffed by the school's most capable teachers. Their teaching pace was noticeably faster than other classes. Every instructor pushed forward through the curriculum rapidly. Fortunately, Qin Hao possessed powerful mental aptitude and kept up effortlessly. Lin Miao Miao and Deng Xiaoqi struggled to keep pace. However, one was an art specialty student and the other an ordinary student. Both had gotten into the elite class through connections. Struggling to keep up with the rapid pace of all subjects, the two found themselves overwhelmed. At last, the final bell rang. The geography teacher dismissed the class, gathered his textbooks, and turned to leave. Finally, we're free. Lin Miao Miao let out a weary groan and slumped over her desk like a frost-bitten eggplant. Everyone in this class is abnormal. All these study machines single-mindedly chasing top scholar honors. How can mere mortals like us keep up with them? As she spoke, Lin Miao Miao gently tugged Deng Xiaoqi's hand. Thank goodness I've got you, Xiaoqi. If I were alone here, I'd definitely go crazy. I feel exactly the same. It's so nice having you around, Miao Miao. Deng Xiaoqi nodded in complete understanding and gave her hand a soft squeeze to show mutual camaraderie. Hearing the playful banter from behind him, Qin Hao chuckled. In his previous life, he could never understand the world of straight-A students. Fortunately, he wouldn't have that trouble in this life. Anything he couldn't learn could be fixed by spending attribute points. After all, after packing his school bag, Qin Hao slowly stood up. You heading home, Hausie? Lin Miao Miao noticed his movement and turned to look at him, her eyes filled with obvious envy. Qin Hao smiled and nodded. Yeah, I'm heading off now. I won't stick around with you too. Lucky you. We've still got several evening self-study sessions ahead. Lin Miao Miao moaned again, her face clouded with gloom. Just thinking about sitting in the classroom until 9 o'clock after dinner gave her a splitting headache. That's the price you pay for choosing boarding school. Freedom always comes with trade-offs. Qin Hao grinned teasingly, then took the initiative to invite them. I'm planning to grab dinner in the cafeteria before I leave. Want to come along? The mention of food instantly perked Lin Miao Miao up. Absolutely. Let's hurry, I'm starving. Xiaoqi, are you coming too? Deng Xiaoqi glanced at Qin Hao and nodded without hesitation. Before the three of them could walk out of the classroom, Jiang Tianhao wandered over with a grin. Are you guys going for dinner? Count me in. Deng Xiaoqi sized Jiang Tianhao up subtly and turned her head slightly with a faint frown. It was clear she saw through his intentions. She was not fond of his persistent advances and even felt a little annoyed. Sure, come along then. Lin Miao Miao failed to notice Deng Xiaoqi's expression and agreed readily. And so their little food-seeking party grew from 3 to 4 people. The cafeteria was still packed as evening arrived. Luckily, Elite High School's cafeteria was spacious enough to avoid crushing crowds. Just like at noon, Qin Hao ordered 2 full plates of food. Lin Miao Miao stared beside him in astonishment. You really eat this much every meal? Now I believe you've got an enormous appetite. Qin Hao smiled without reply and swiped his student ID card over the reader. A beep sounded as the meal fee was deducted automatically. Whoa! Lin Miao Miao gasped when she saw the remaining balance. Over 4,400? You loaded that much money onto your meal card. Qin Hao slipped the card into his pocket, lifted the two full trays, and turned around before shaking his head. I didn't put it there. This living allowance comes directly from the school. Why would the school give you living allowance out of nowhere, and such a large sum? Lin Miao Miao asked, thoroughly confused. Before Qin Hao could answer, Deng Xiaoqi suddenly spoke up. Miao Miao, don't you know? Qin Hao is this year's high school entrance examination top scorer. The school recruited him with a generous offer. They waived all his fees and gave him an extra reward of 500,000. Deng Xiaoqi's cheeks flushed as she spoke, her gaze bright with undisguised admiration. The normally proud young woman rested a hand lightly on her chest, breath catching slightly. So that top scorer is you, Haozi? Lin Miao Miao finally realized the truth. On registration day, she'd heard that a top scholar had enrolled in their grade. She never imagined it would be Qin Hao, the boy sitting in front of her. Lin Miao Miao had never held much interest in top scorers before, but her opinion completely shifted now. At the very least, Qin Hao seemed like a really nice person. That's amazing. Free living allowance from the school. Imagine how many chicken legs you could buy with that. Lin Miao Miao muttered to herself, her eyes practically turning into pictures of chicken legs. You really are a total food lover. Qin Hao shook his head, laughing. Once they finished eating, the group walked out of the cafeteria together. Haozi, Jiang Tianhao, Xiaoqi, and I are heading back to the dorm first. Lin Miao Miao grabbed Deng Xiaoqi's arm and waved toward the two boys. Deng Xiaoqi also looked back and smiled softly at Qin Hao. Qin Hao, we're off. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Xiaoqi. See you, Miao Miao. Qin Hao waved back. He kept watching until the two girls vanished from sight before lowering his hand. Jiang Tianhao, standing beside him, looked dejected. Lin Miao Miao had at least remembered to greet him as she left. Deng Xiaoqi, on the other hand, had acted as if he didn't exist. Qin Hao clapped him on the shoulder and offered a heartfelt piece of advice. Xiaoqi clearly isn't interested in you. There's no need to fixate on just one girl. Plenty of great young women are out there. Don't let the reputation of Elite High's top guy go to waste. Jiang Tianhao let out a bitter laugh, his emotions tangled. What kind of top guy am I compared to you? But you're right. Xiaoqi's always cold toward me. I shouldn't keep annoying her. Qin Hao said nothing more and patted his shoulder once again. After parting ways with Jiang Tianhao, Qin Hao walked alone toward the school gate. He swiped his student ID at the entrance scanner, and the security gate slid open slowly. Be careful on your way out. The campus security guard in the booth spoke gently. Thanks, sir. Qin Hao smiled and nodded, stepping out of the school grounds. He first went home to put away his school bag and change clothes before heading out again. After more than an hour of travel, he arrived at the bustling downtown district. Along the streets, many people walked alongside Pokemon. Naturally, they were all small-sized Pokemon. Larger ones risked triggering public unrest. If a Pokemon panicked and caused damage, its trainer would bear corresponding legal responsibility. We're here. Qin Hao walked a short distance after getting off transport and spotted a striking huge building. Two stone sculptures stood on either side of the entrance. On the left was a Macamp with 4 arms. On the right, a Hitmonlee in a kicking stance. The two Pokemon statues faced each other, as if poised to battle. It was already night, and quite a few people wandered around the area. First, I'll register to become an official trainer. Qin Hao turned his gaze toward the Pokemon Center. The Pokemon Center stood right next to the Pokemon Battle Arena. In fact, every building in this district was related to Pokemon. Besides the official Pokemon Center, Battle Arena, and Pokemon Shop, there were numerous privately run Pokemon clubs and breeding houses. Most shops had no entry requirements, but anyone wishing to enter the official Battle Arena needed certified trainer status. Qin Hao stepped inside the Pokemon Center, which was already crowded. Some visitors were here to heal their Pokemon, while others rested in the lounge area. Only a small number of young people around his age lined up at the service counter. They were also here to complete new trainer certification. Thankfully, the queue isn't long. Otherwise, my plan to find a battle tonight will fall through. Letting out a quiet breath of relief, Qin Hao took his place at the end of the line. The certification process was straightforward. Each applicant simply needed to show their ID and release their starter Pokemon. Qin Hao got to witness all kinds of Pokemon while waiting. Many were starter trio Pokemon, alongside numerous common species seen on the market. It was clear that Eastern Huanghua had plenty of wealthy residents. To obtain an official starter trio Pokemon, One option was to pay 50,000 yuan each year for 16 years to receive one from government breeding facilities. The other option was to source one through other channels. Either way, the cost was steep. An egg of a starter trio Pokemon sold for as high as 1,000,000 yuan on the open market. Qin certainly could never afford one. He also saw several people release Pokemon that were not in their base forms, clearly raised and trained for a long time. These were young people whose families had prepared Pokemon for them long in advance, or Pokemon caught in the wild. Although official trainer certification was only permitted at 16, there was no rule stopping families from raising Pokemon ahead of time. In truth, the government could hardly enforce such a restriction. Especially for powerful, well-connected families, their children started out with massive advantages. Therefore, the government did not place limits on the strength of starter Pokemon. Instead, strict rules were set for official tournament entry requirements, and even banned Pokemon use during national college entrance examinations. Even with all these measures, complete fairness remained impossible. But for ordinary people from modest backgrounds, there was still a visible path to climb upward. Nearly half an hour later, it was Qin turn. "Good evening, sir. How may I assist you?" The staff member behind the counter offered a professional smile. "Hello, I'd like to complete trainer certification." Qin replied politely. "Very well, sir. Please present your identification card and release your starter Pokemon." Qin handed over his prepared ID card, then reached toward his waist and grasped a Pokeball. He pressed a button on the sphere, and the marble-sized ball expanded to its regular form. With a burst of red light, the Pokeball opened, and a Pidgeotto appeared in front of the service counter. "A Pidgeotto. Please wait a moment." The staff member typed away on the computer. Shortly afterward, the paperwork was finished, and the ID card was handed back. "Thank you for waiting. Your trainer certification has been processed. You are now a newly registered Pokemon trainer. We wish you every success on your journey to becoming an outstanding trainer." A smile spread across Qin face. "Thank you. I appreciate the well wishes." Qin put away his ID and recalled Pidgeotto into its Pokeball before leaving the Pokemon Center. Becoming a certified trainer was not a rare achievement at all. Any citizen of Eastern Huanghua who owned at least one Pokemon could register. It did not matter whether the Pokemon was an Arceus, a Magikarp, or a Caterpie. Since so many people could obtain new trainer certification easily, the status held little prestige. Coupled with Eastern Huanghua's enormous population, newly certified trainers received very few official benefits. Only by raising one's trainer rank could more social privileges be unlocked. For now, Qin paid little mind to benefits. He only had one Pokemon, and his priority was boosting its strength. Leaving the Pokemon Center, he headed straight for the battle arena. After showing his ID, he entered without trouble. Far more trainers gathered inside the arena than in the Pokemon Center. Qin did not wander aimlessly. He walked over to the venue map posted by the entrance and carefully studied the arena layout. After a quick overview, he understood the setup. The battle arena covered a large area with complete facilities. It contained multiple battle courts, dedicated training rooms for Pokemon practice, and even a gym for trainers to work out. The arena also offered paid battle sparring services, like private training rooms, special battle chambers, and attribute practice facilities for honing Pokemon moves required fees to use. The only free zone in the entire complex was the public battle plaza in the main hall. Trainers of any rank could arrange informal battles there. That was far better than many private battle clubs nearby, which required paid membership cards to enter despite more comfortable surroundings. "I'll check the battle plaza first and see if I can find someone to spar with." Having sorted out the arena's layout, Qin settled on his plan. Following the hanging directional signs, he soon reached the battle plaza. Dozens of trainers lingered here. 10 small battle courts occupied the space, all currently in use. Some hosted one-on-one single battles, while a few held two-on-two double battles. Spectators lined the courts, some waiting for a court to free up, others simply observing the fights for fun. Several staff members patrolled the area as well. Beyond maintaining order, they stood ready to respond to emergencies. Pokemon battles carried inherent risks, and stray attacks could hurt bystanders. Staff usually stood by with their own Pokemon to intervene instantly if anything went wrong. Most of these Pokemon are at novice or ordinary tier. Qin activated his inside eyes and scanned all Pokemon on the courts. He could only view basic information for other people's Pokemon. Details such as move proficiency remained hidden. Even so, knowing an opponent's Pokemon tier, ability, and available moves before battle began gave a massive edge. After watching for a short while, Qin walked toward a heavy-set young man 2 years older than himself. "Excuse me, buddy, can I ask you something?" The young man turned around at the sudden address. Seeing Qin Hao's polite smile, he nodded calmly. You called me buddy, so fire away. What do you need? Qin Hao stated his purpose. This is my first time visiting the battle arena. I want to find someone for a practice battle, but I'm not sure what I need to do. You're a newly certified trainer? The heavy-set man raised an eyebrow. Qin Hao nodded lightly. I just registered not long ago. No wonder you don't know the ropes. Once he heard Qin Hao's situation, the man explained warmly. Finding sparring partners here is simple. These open courts work on an informal basis. Trainers arrange matches and step up once a court opens up. If you don't want to hunt for an opponent yourself, you can step onto an empty court and openly challenge anyone nearby. All in all, it's pretty easy to find someone to battle. Qin Hao thanked him after hearing the explanation. I see now. Thanks a lot for clarifying things. Don't mention it. At home we rely on family. Out in the world, we rely on friends. The heavy-set man waved casually and introduced himself. I'm Lu Qiu, a freshman majoring in civil engineering at Jiangzhou University. What's your name? Qin Hao. I'm a first-year student at Elite High School. Lu Qiu looked surprised. Wait, you're still in high school? Elite High is a provincial key demonstration school, right? You registered as a trainer in your first year and came here looking for battles. Aren't you pushing yourself pretty hard? Qin Hao smiled calmly at Lu Qiu's teasing. Grade division is coming up next year. I wanted to come to the arena early to get a feel for things and see if I have any talent as a trainer. If I find I'm not suited for Pokemon battles, I can plan my future path in advance. His explanation only left Lu Qiu more stunned. He'd barely started freshman year and was already thinking about course selection and long-term plans. Were teenagers this forward-thinking these days? After a moment, Lu Qiu recovered. Man, you're something else. I'm itching for a battle myself. What tier is your starter Pokemon? If our strength levels are close, we can fight a match. Joy surged inside Qin Hao. He had been hoping to find a suitable opponent, and now one had volunteered. Of course, whether Lu Qiu would be easy to defeat remained to be seen. My starter is an ordinary tier Pidgeotto. Wow, ordinary tier already as a high school freshman? Are you from a wealthy family? Lu Qiu's eyes widened again. Qin Hao shrugged helplessly. Would a rich kid start with a Pidgeotto? This Pokemon was left to me by my grandmother. I could never afford the fees for the official starter trio program. My bad. I jumped to conclusions. Lu Qiu patted his mouth lightly and awkwardly steered the conversation back on track. What a coincidence. My main Pokemon is also ordinary rank right now. Let me give you some proper guidance later. Follow me. There are fewer people over at that battlefield. Let's queue up there. Led by Lu Qiu, the two headed for battlefield number 3. After waiting through 2 matches, it was finally their turn to fight. Qin Hao and Lu Qiu each took their positions at the command platforms on opposite ends. Since this was a free public venue, there was no official referee. Go, Timber. Lu Qiu pulled a pokeball from his waist and tossed it into the air. A beam of red light burst out from the sphere, quickly coalescing into a sturdy figure on the ground. A Timber. Qin Hao was slightly surprised and immediately activated Insight Eye to scan it. Timber, gender, male type, fighting level, 23 ordinary rank ability. Guts when afflicted by a severe status condition, its potential awakens, sharply boosting attack. Moves, Mach Punch, Pound, Leer, Low Kick, Endure, Rock Throw, Focus Energy, Bulk Up, Rock Slide held item. None potential grade, professional rank. Professional rank potential. Truly impressive talent. Qin Hao's eyes flickered, and he turned to Lu Qiu with a smile. Brother Lu, you're the one from a well-off family. Lu Qiu waved his hand modestly. I wouldn't say wealthy. My family runs construction projects. My dad found this Pokemon for me, so we're comfortably off. Don't worry. Since this is your first battle, I'll go easy on you. Qin Hao smiled calmly at his words. Timber didn't come cheap. Once it evolved into Conkeldurr, its base stats would be comparable to starter Pokemon. If not for its low speed, it would be almost like a slaking free from the truant ability's drawbacks. Still, this one was only a Timber, and the level gap was minimal. Qin Hao was brimming with confidence. No need to hold back. Give it your all, Brother Lu. Come forth, Pidgeotto. As the Pokeball opened, Pidgeotto materialized at the center of the field. Want to strike first? Lu Qiu offered voluntarily. Whether it was kindness or underestimation, Qin Hao would not pass up this chance. Victory in battle meant experience points, after all. If you're so generous, I won't decline. Pidgeotto use Gust. The instant the command was given, Pidgeotto soared upward. It beat its wings hard, sending a swirling gale surging forward. The wind started weak, but grew stronger with every flap of its wings. As a fighting-type Pokemon, Timber took super effective damage from flying-type moves. Qin Hao's Pidgeotto only knew 2 flying-type attacks, Air Cutter, and Gust. Since this was his first trainer battle, he chose Gust as a feint to test the opponent and watch for openings. The fierce wind swept across the field, kicking up sand and gravel everywhere. Timber was not large, and the storm forced it to stagger backward repeatedly. Break it apart. Timber, rock throw. From his command platform, Lucio would not sit idle, shouting his order promptly. Timber braced against the wind, slamming its wooden log into the ground. Boom. The ground cracked, and a boulder half the size of a person shot upward. Timber swung its log like a baseball bat and struck the rock hard. The stone cut through the gale straight toward Pidgeotto. Dodge. Chin Hao foresaw this and issued the command instantly. With a simple loop in the air, Pidgeotto easily evaded the incoming rock. Don't let it catch its breath. Keep using rock throw, barrage it. Against a Pidgeotto holding aerial superiority and vastly superior speed, this was Lucio's only viable plan. Among all of Timber's moves, only Rock Throw and Rock Slide could strike from a distance. Rock Slide hit harder, yet Rock Throw consumed less energy. Lucio intended to conserve Timber's stamina, waiting for a chance to land a decisive blow and claim victory. Moments later, countless stones were sent flying one after another, pouring down like rain. Pidgeotto, quick attack to evade fully. Close the gap when you can. A pale white light enveloped Pidgeotto as the words left his mouth. Its speed surged, weaving nimbly through the shower of falling rubble. While dodging relentlessly, it steadily drew closer to Timber. Timber, jump and use low kick. Seeing ranged attacks fail, Lucio switched tactics immediately. The distance between them was now within striking range. If this move landed, Timber would seize the advantage. Ugh! Timber planted its log on the ground to propel itself upward. It leaped high, channeling energy into its right leg for a sweeping kick aimed straight at Pidgeotto. Sand attacked to interrupt it. Chin Hao issued the counter-command without delay. Pie! Pidgeotto cried out sharply, flapping its wings to stir up clouds of sand. In an instant, the dust swallowed Timber entirely. Grow up! Sand blinded Timber, forcing it to squeeze its eyes shut with a pained roar. Deprived of sight, its attack lost all accuracy. Its short legs lashed out mid-air and struck nothing, slamming heavily into the ground. A crater formed on impact, cracks spider-webbing outward across the surface. Now, Air Cutter. Pidgeotto twisted its body, gathering energy along its wings. Within a few breaths, countless slicing gusts shot forward. Timber, get out of the way. Panic flashed across Lucio's face as he shouted his urgent command. Yet reality was not like the stories where every opponent barely escapes. Still blinded by sand, Timber was engulfed by the razor winds. Boom! Explosions echoed at the center of the field, billowing smoke rising into the air. Chin Hao did not order Pidgeotto to press the assault. It circled quietly in the sky, waiting for the haze to clear. This was merely a friendly spar. The trope of smoke means no damage belonged only to fiction. Sure enough, the smoke slowly faded after a short while. Timber lay battered in the crater, eyes squeezed shut. The wooden log it never left behind rested quietly on the ground beside it. Ding! Pidgeotto defeated Timber, earning 200 experience points. Current Pidgeotto level, 21-1082/1119, host gains 20 skill experience points. The familiar notification ringing in his mind filled Chin Hao with excitement. Return, Timber. You've worked hard. Lucio recalled his Pokemon into its Pokeball, visibly dejected. He was a university student who had fought many trainers over summer break, and he never expected to lose so cleanly to a high school freshman. Just thinking about it made his expression uneasy. Are you really battling for the first time? Lucio called out across the field, unable to hold back the question. It truly is my first match. I have no reason to lie. I can't wrap my head around this. You beat me handily on your very first battle. Lucio scratched his head in frustration, still unable to accept the outcome. Wait, he said without stepping down from the platform. Do you have any other Pokemon? Let's fight another round. Chin Hao slowly shook his head when he heard the request. I only have one Pokemon for now, but if you want a rematch, I can fight you again with Pidgeotto. It didn't expend much energy just now. It's more than capable of another battle. Are you certain? Lucio hesitated. This would essentially be a battle against a fatigued opponent, and winning under such circumstances would feel hollow. Chin Hao, however, was not about to turn down free experience points. It's just a casual spar. Bring it on, Brother Lu. Very well, one more match. After a brief pause, Lucio agreed. He pulled another Pokeball from his waist and hurled it skyward. I choose you. Go, Mac Hop. Red light flashed once more, revealing a stockier, human-shaped Pokemon standing taller than Timber. First a Timber, then a Mach-Hop. He really is a civil engineering student through and through. Looks like he's set to take over the family business after graduation. Qin Hao's eyes twitched slightly as he mused to himself. But when he scanned Mach-Hop with inside eye, his eyes widened in surprise. A female Mach-Hop. Mach-Hop, gender, female type, fighting level, 18 ordinary rank ability. Guts when afflicted by a severe status condition. Its potential awakens, sharply boosting attack moves. Counter, leer, low kick, focus energy, revenge, knock off, low sweep held item, none potential grade, professional rank. Compared to the Timber from earlier, this Mach-Hop was noticeably weaker. Still, both boasted excellent potential. Professional rank potential was rare. Many small gym leaders only commanded Pokemon of this caliber. If Qin Hao's Pokemon could not grow by gaining experience from defeating foes, Pidgeotto and Farfetch'd might eventually fall behind. You strike first again. Lucio yielded the opening move once more. Qin Hao did not hesitate at all. This Mach-Hop posed little threat. His only precaution was to avoid using physical attacks, lest Lucio seize the chance to land counter. The battle unfolded exactly as Qin Hao predicted. Pidgeotto commanded the skies and moved freely. No matter how high Mach-Hop jumped, it could not land a hit. After a prolonged battle of attrition, Mach-Hop inevitably fell. Ding! Pidgeotto defeated Mach-Hop, earning 157 experience points. Pidgeotto level up. Current Pidgeotto level, 22-120/1248. Host gains 16 skill experience points. Great work, Pidgeotto. You were amazing. Qin Hao called Pidgeotto to his side, bending down to praise it joyfully. Pai. Pidgeotto chirped happily, closing its eyes to enjoy Qin Hao's gentle caress. At that moment, Lucio recalled Mach-Hop and trudged over looking gloomy. Damn, you swept both of my Pokemon. I feel like I walked into a trap. I shouldn't have agreed to the second match. Lucio wore a bitter frown. Losing so badly in front of onlookers stung his pride. As the clear winner of the night, Qin Hao smiled humbly. Don't put it that way, Brother Lu. I just got lucky. Both Timber and Mach-Hop are fighting types, naturally weak to flying attacks. They lack effective long-range options, so they were at a disadvantage from the start. Besides, this battlefield favors Pidgeotto. If we fought in a forest or rocky terrain, the outcome would be far less certain. Lucio's mood lightened after hearing Qin Hao's explanation. A warm smile returned to his chubby face. Enough flattery. A loss is a loss. I know my own skill level. Lucio waved his hand and sighed thoughtfully. I guess after graduation, I'll take over my dad's construction business. Training Pokemon will stay a hobby. Qin Hao simply smiled and said nothing. Once they stepped outside the battlefield, staff led Sandslash and Rhydon out to repair the terrain. Before long, the arena was smooth again. Qin Hao, I'm heading to the Pokemon Center to heal my team and then going home. Are you staying longer? Qin Hao paused, then nodded lightly. It's still early. I want to watch more battles and learn. Lucio understood. He had been equally thrilled and reluctant to leave the battle center on his first visit. I'm off then. Let's add each other on Rotom Friends. We can schedule more spars at the battle center sometime. I took a heavy defeat today, but I'll get my revenge sooner or later. Sounds good. I'll be waiting. Qin Hao grinned and pulled out his phone. A ready source of experience points. Volunteering itself was something he welcomed wholeheartedly. After exchanging contacts, Lucio hurried away from the plaza. Qin Hao lingered at the battle center for a while longer, then challenged another trainer. The opponent's partner was a level 19 Butterfree with the Compound Eyes ability. It could fly, and its speed rivaled Pidgeotto's. To make matters worse, it knew Confusion, a psychic-type move that created plenty of trouble for Qin Hao. Thankfully, Pidgeotto held the type advantage. After a grueling fight, it secured a hard-fought victory. Ding! Pidgeotto defeated Butterfree, earning 483 experience points. Current Pidgeotto level, 22603/1248. Host gains 48 skill experience points. Fighting fully evolved Pokemon really pays off. The experience reward is drastically higher. Butterfree was only one level above Lucio's Mach-Hop, yet yielded more than twice the experience. Reading the notification in his mind, Qin Hao gained a new understanding. I'll call it a day. Too much of anything is bad. Pidgeotto's stamina and energy were completely drained. He returned it to its Pokeball and walked out of the battle plaza. He left the Pokemon Battle Center and headed straight for the Pokemon Center. Checkups and healing were mandatory after battles to prevent hidden injuries that could stunt a Pokemon's potential. Fortunately, Pidgeotto only sustained minor wounds across 3 fights. Under the care of Pokemon nurses and Chansey, it recovered quickly. Healing was not cheap, and as a student with no steady income, the cost weighed on Qin Hao's budget. If he kept traveling downtown to battle other trainers, his limited savings would not last long. I need to find a way to earn money. Beyond healing fees, Qin Hao planned to feed his Pokemon Poke Blocks. Poke Blocks were nutrient-rich treats. More than just filling bellies, they steadily boosted a Pokemon's stats. Pokemon raised on Poke Blocks grew stronger faster and boasted better base attributes than those fed standard Pokemon food. Even though his Pokemon advanced by earning experience, extra methods of growth were always welcome. But Poke Blocks are pricey. Maybe I can learn to make them myself. After a moment of thought, an idea took shape. Poke Blocks were crafted by mixing various berries with supplementary materials. It sounded simple, yet the production process was extremely intricate. One misstep ruined the whole batch. Most breeders poured endless resources into trial and error, a luxury ordinary families could not afford. Qin Hao faced no such barrier. He could spend skill points to master Poke Block crafting with ease. He could even sell surplus treats for a tidy profit, far greater than he imagined. Money for raising Pokemon would no longer be a worry. Qin Hao arrived home at 10 o'clock. He spent nearly another hour finishing all his school assignments. After washing up, he laid quietly in bed. Before sleep, Qin Hao replayed the 3 battles in his mind. Even though Pidgeotto claimed 3 straight wins, plenty of flaws surfaced. Its moves lacked proficiency, requiring lengthy wind-ups to unleash. This might not matter at lower levels, but against powerful opponents in the future. Energy gathering speed and move casting speed would decide victory and defeat. Beyond a Pokemon's level, move proficiency was equally vital. With that thought, Qin Hao turned to look at Pidgeotto curled up on his pillow. Its data panel materialized before his eyes. Pidgeotto, gender, male type, normal/flying level, 22 ordinary rank ability, keen eye sharp vision and perception, accuracy cannot be lowered moves, air cutter egg move, novice, 28 50ths, tackle proficient, 3 100ths, sand attack proficient, 13 100ths gust novice, 23 50ths, quick attack novice, 40 50ths special move, gale wing blade novice, 1 50th held item, none potential grade, elite rank friendship, 243 255ths. It seemed the battles had taken their toll, yet Pidgeotto's proficiency in several moves had improved. The gains, however, were fairly modest overall. After a brief moment of thought, Qin Hao decided to prioritize boosting Pidgeotto's move proficiency. After all, the stronger Pidgeotto grew, the more opponents it could defeat, which would earn them greater skill experience points. Qin Hao still possessed 92 skill experience points, enough to raise 3 moves to the proficient tier. Without hesitation, he allocated points to upgrade Air Cutter, Tailwind, and Quick Attack. Hi. Sensing the shift within its body, Pidgeotto's eyes flew open. Easy, it's just me. Go back to sleep. Qin Hao whispered to calm it down. Hi. Pidgeotto gently rubbed its head against Qin Hao's hand before closing its eyes once more. Soon its breathing steadied. Qin Hao slowly pulled his hand away and turned his attention back to his status panel. Only 30 skill experience points remained, insufficient to bring about any notable improvement for Pidgeotto. After some contemplation, Qin Hao resolved to save them for later. While 30 points would let him pick up the basics of Gale Blade, he had little use for the skill anytime soon. The nation of Donghuang maintained sound public order, and there were almost no situations in the cities where he would need to fight personally. On top of that, Qin Hao planned to learn how to craft Poke Blocks, so he wanted to keep experience points in reserve. Rather than spreading out his resources now, he would wait until he accumulated a larger pool of skill experience to invest in his own abilities. Good night, Pidgeotto. With those words, Qin Hao drifted off to sleep. Early the next morning, Qin Hao woke up at his usual hour. Instead of heading out for his morning workout as normal, he practiced body refining fist in the living room. He moved through the sequence of stances one after another. At first, he felt little change, but as he neared the end of the routine, his skin gradually flushed and his breathing grew erratic. Even so, he forced himself to maintain proper breathing rhythm. When he finished the set, he was soaked in sweat. Though his muscles ached distinctly, there was a pleasant sense of relief spreading through his body. The effects are better than I expected. I wonder which expert refined this body refining fist. Qin Hao did not sit down to rest right away. He stood in place and stretched his muscles. Once most of the soreness faded, he headed into the bathroom to wash up. After breakfast with Pidgeotto, Qin Hao slung his school bag over his shoulder and left home. Unlike yesterday, he carried a bedsheet and an air conditioner quilt in his hands. He had barely reached the community gate when a bicycle sped toward him from behind. With a screech of brakes, the bike halted steadily beside Qin Hao. Qian Sanyi, seated on the saddle, turned his head to look over. Morning. You live here too. Qian Sanyi nodded and spoke softly. Qin Hao was genuinely surprised that the other boy had taken the initiative to greet him. At school, Qian Sanyi came across as cold and unapproachable to everyone. But Qin Hao knew he was only reserved on the surface, awkward and eager for connection deep down. He quickly recovered and smiled in response. Good morning. It's quite a coincidence that we live in the same neighborhood. Relief softened Qian Sanyi's expression upon hearing Qin Hao's reply. He planted one foot on the ground to steady his bicycle and asked quietly, Want a ride? Thanks for the offer, but I still have plenty of time. I'll walk. Qin Hao smiled and politely declined. Then I'll head off first. See you at school. See you there. Qin Hao waved and watched the bicycle speed away. Once Qian Sanyi disappeared from sight, he shook his head with a faint chuckle. He really struggles to be straightforward. He could tell the boy longed to make more friends, yet his poor communication skills led his peers to keep their distance. In the original timeline, he only grew close to Lin Miao Miao's group after a rocky start. Without that chance encounter, it would have been difficult for Qian Sanyi to build solid friendships with his classmates. Pushing the small interlude from his mind, Qin Hao strolled leisurely toward school. When he reached the classroom doorway, the room buzzed with activity, just like the previous day. Morning, Haozi. Lin Miao Miao, bustling around the classroom, spotted Qin Hao and waved excitedly. Her boundless energy was truly admirable. Qin Hao walked to his seat and waved back at the group. Morning, Miao Miao. Morning, Xiaoqi and Jiang Tianhao. Good morning, Qin Hao. Deng Xiaoqi waved gently, her voice soft. Jiang Tianhao beside him slung an arm over Qin Hao's shoulder and grinned, showing his white teeth as he joked. Hey, that's way too casual. You make me sound like an afterthought. Qin Hao set down his belongings and shot back without hesitation. Come on. Miao Miao and Xiaoqi greeted me first. I'm already doing you a favor by mentioning you. Jiang Tianhao clutched his chest with a pained expression. That hurts. You're going to lose me as a friend. Qin Hao shrugged and pushed Jiang Tianhao's arm off his shoulder, rolling his eyes. Next time you pull that stunt, try grabbing the correct side of your heart if you want it to be convincing. Ha! Lin Miao Miao and Deng Xiaoqi laughed aloud watching Jiang Tianhao's repeated defeats. Jiang Tianhao did not seem embarrassed at all and laughed along carefreely. A smile tugged at Qin Hao's lips. When he noticed Qian Sanyi stealing glances toward him, he gave the boy a slight nod. Haozi, since when are you on such good terms with that guy? Lin Miao Miao nudged his arm with her elbow, eyes wide with surprise. Deng Xiaoqi and Jiang Tianhao also looked curious. Only one day into the semester, nearly everyone in class knew each other's faces. During breaks, Qian Sanyi often wore headphones and stared blankly ahead, projecting an aloof aura that made others wary. He struck most people as hard to get along with. While Qian Sanyi earned good grades and had decent looks, Qin Hao outshone him on both fronts. Combined with Qin Hao's warmer personality, Qian Sanyi naturally stood less prominently among their peers. Most people preferred spending time with upbeat, friendly classmates. We're not especially close. We just ran into each other on the way here since we live in the same residential complex, Qin Hao said, turning to face her with a smile. Why? You sound like you've got some grievances against Qian Sanyi. I just think he acts stuck up, Lin Miao Miao muttered, leaning in close to his ear. He puts on headphones and messes with his phone every break. His grades aren't as good as yours, and his social awareness is far worse too, yet he gets all these special privileges. It's so unfair. No wonder attitudes in society are shifting. Even schools seem to play favorites. It's a shame for a school named Elite Academy. Qin Hao let out a helpless laugh at her complaints. Hey now, you're dragging me into that statement too. That's different. You're nothing like him. Lin Miao Miao waved her hand matter-of-factly. I appreciate the vote of confidence, Qin Hao said, shaking his head, amused. I think you're just jealous that he can use his phone at school and get preferential treatment from teacher Zhao and all the other instructors. Lin Miao Miao did not look the slightest bit embarrassed to be seen through. She was always outspoken about whatever crossed her mind. So what if I am? Decades ago, this kind of preferential treatment would have been seen as out of touch with everyone else. She suddenly thought of something and eyed Qin Hao disapprovingly. I almost forgot, you also get special treatment. Us top students will never understand how tough school is for us average learners. Qin Hao rolled his eyes at her indignant expression. Take it easy. Don't get carried away with your complaints. That's just your bias. Spreading gossip behind people's backs isn't a good habit. You're the one who's being unreasonable. Lin Miao Miao pouted stubbornly and fell silent. Thankfully, the class bell rang, cutting off all casual chatter. The school day began with morning self-study. High school coursework posed little challenge to Qin Hao. Even without spending skill experience points to boost his intellect, He found learning effortlessly manageable. Still, girls in the class constantly approached his desk with textbooks to ask questions. His area of the classroom stayed crowded every break. Seeing how popular Qin Hao was, Jiang Tianhao could not help feeling a twinge of envy. I used to be the big shot of this school, the undisputed top student of elite academy. Now I don't even get a tenth of the attention Qin Hao gets. Heaven, why must you treat me so cruelly? Jiang Tianhao slumped over his desk, clearly dejected. Lin Miao Miao snickered when she heard him. Quit daydreaming. You can't compete with Big Housey. Cheer up, though. You've got 3 whole years of this ahead of you. You'll grow used to it soon enough. Jiang Tianhao's heart sank again, and he stared at her with a mournful gaze. Thanks a lot, Miao Miao. Must you always rub it in? I'm trying to comfort you. What if you sink into low spirits? Lin Miao Miao teased with a grin. This only earned her another eye roll from Jiang Tianhao. I'm not that fragile. Besides, good academic grades don't mean you're skilled at raising Pokemon. Slow progress isn't permanent. When we officially split into streams in the 2nd year and are allowed to bring Pokemon to campus, I'll beat Qin Hao fair and square and reclaim my title as Elite Academy's top student. As he spoke, he punched the air lightly, brimming with confidence. Good luck with that, Lin Miao Miao said, deciding not to tease him further before turning to Deng Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi, do you think Jiang Tianhao can beat Housey? Deng Xiaoqi had been gazing at Qin Hao, lost in thought. She frowned without hesitation. Absolutely not. He stands no chance against Qin Hao. Figures. Asking you was pointless, Lin Miao Miao sighed, noticing Deng Xiaoqi's obvious bias and dropping the subject. Before long, all morning classes came to an end. Ravenous students surged toward the cafeteria like untamed horses. After a hearty lunch, the 4 of them walked out feeling satisfied. Halfway back, Lin Miao Miao rubbed her stomach and glanced at Qin Hao. Housey, you eat so much every meal. Are you sure that's healthy? Qin Hao smiled and shook his head. Don't worry. My body simply requires more energy. You guys could stand to eat a little more too. We learned a fitness routine in PE class yesterday. Practicing it every day aids digestion, helps maintain a healthy weight, and strengthens your physique. Really? The 2 girls' eyes lit up the moment he mentioned staying trim without cutting calories. For young women, the promise of maintaining a healthy figure without excessive dieting held incredible appeal. Qin Hao nodded. I can't guarantee unlimited eating without weight gain, but Xiaoqi, you wouldn't need strict dieting. You could eat normally without worrying about your shape shifting easily. Deng Xiaoqi was thoroughly tempted. She hated restricting her meals just to keep her figure. Qin Hao added another point. Aren't you aiming to become a Pokemon coordinator? Sticking to this fitness routine will build stamina, making performances much less taxing in the future. Deng Xiaoqi was fully convinced. She nodded firmly. I'll keep practicing the fitness routine from now on. Jiang Tianhao listened quietly, the idea taking root in his mind. Having boasted in front of Lin Miao Miao, he intended to follow through. The group reached a fork separating the dormitories from the teaching buildings. Qin Hao came to a halt. I need to head back to the classroom to pick up my bedding. You can go on ahead to the dorms. We still have plenty of time. We'll come with you. What do you say, Miao Miao? Deng Xiaoqi turned to her friend. All right, Lin Miao Miao conceded, unable to refuse Deng Xiaoqi's hopeful look. The 4 of them walked back toward the teaching building. After collecting the bedding set, they turned toward the dormitories. As they neared the dormitory buildings, rows of sunshade tents came into view. Students wearing elite academy uniforms stood along the path, handing flyers to incoming first years. Classmate, the manga club is recruiting. Interested in joining? Anyone fond of photography, boys and girls? Voices calling out invitations echoed back and forth. The lively scene naturally captured Qin Hao and his friend's attention. Jiang Tianhao, who knew Elite Academy well, explained for the others. This is the annual club recruitment drive held at the start of each semester. It's meant to encourage students to develop hobbies and grow holistically, as directed by national education guidelines. Every student gets 1 chance to join a club. Of course, you can choose not to join anything. Participation is completely voluntary. Lin Miao Miao grew interested after hearing his explanation. Xiaoqi, let's go take a look. She grabbed Deng Xiaoqi's hand and hurried toward the tents. With plenty of time before the midday rest bell, Qin Hao followed along to watch. The senior girls running recruitment stalls lit up the second they spotted Qin Hao and swarmed over to extend invitations. Watching this, Jiang Tianhao grew green with envy. He wished he could attract that much attention. Qin Hao finally extricated himself from the crowd and let out a quiet breath. Compared to the girls in his class, the upper-grade seniors were far more forward. Qin Hao, you're unbelievably lucky. Jiang Tianhao gritted his teeth. Qin Hao simply smiled and said nothing. Soon Lin Miao Miao returned, clutching a pile of club flyers. I've collected flyers from every recruiting club. We can look through them back in the dorm later. Deng Xiaoqi stepped beside Qin Hao and asked softly, "Are you planning to join any club?" "I'll pass." Qin Hao shook his head directly. "I'm not interested in club activities. I don't want to stay on campus after school for meetings and events." "I see. That's all right," Deng Xiaoqi replied, disappointed but unwilling to press him further. "All right, the midday rest bell will ring soon. Let's hurry back to the dorms." Qin Hao checked his phone and reminded everyone. They parted ways at the dormitory entrance. Lin Miao Miao and Deng Xiaoqi headed into the girls' dormitory, while Qin Hao followed Jiang Tianhao toward the boys' dormitory. Elite Academy's dormitories housed 4 students per room. Qin Hao and Qian Sanyu were registered as day students, yet the school had reserved 2 beds for them in the same room. Though officially a 4-person room, only 2 students normally stayed there. Elite Academy charged steep tuition, but the dormitory facilities were undeniably good. The mattresses were a touch firm, yet far more comfortable than resting one's head on a classroom desk. The days that followed fell into a calm rhythm for Qin Hao. He attended classes diligently on weekdays and traveled into the city to seek out Pokemon battles after school. He did not visit the Pokemon Battle Center every single evening, however. Though Pokemon possessed robust physiques, they still required sufficient rest. He traveled downtown every 2 days to avoid overworking Pidgeotto and prevent accidents from burnout. On evenings without battles, he studied Pokemon breeder knowledge online. The nation of Dongwang actively promoted the training of professional Pokemon breeders, so abundant learning resources were available online. He even found detailed tutorial videos demonstrating how to craft basic Pokeblocks. Watching tutorials was one thing, but mastering the skill proved difficult for ordinary people. This was merely the simplest grade of universal Pokeblock, suitable for any Pokemon. Creating intermediate or advanced Pokeblocks tailored to specific Pokemon types or species demanded far greater skill and higher material costs. Recipes for most intermediate Pokeblocks could not be purchased openly. Aspiring breeders either researched formulas independently, joined specialized corporations, enrolled in university breeder programs, or earned official national certification as Pokemon breeders. These were the only viable paths to obtain advanced crafting recipes. It spoke volumes about how challenging it was to become a capable Pokemon breeder. One could even argue that exceptional breeders were harder to cultivate than powerful trainers. A trainer only needed sufficient funding, while breeders had countless complex factors to consider. Fortunately, Qin Hao possessed his unique system, making the path of a breeder far more attainable. In truth, after accumulating a reserve of skill experience points through Pokemon battles, Qin Hao invested points into himself and successfully unlocked the fundamentals of Pokeblock crafting. Yet when he headed into the city to buy raw materials and try his hand at crafting, Qin Hao was stunned. Orange berries, which restored stamina and offered mild healing effects, cost 100 Dongwon coins apiece. Other varieties, such as apple berries that replenished energy, cherry berries and peach berries that cleared all kinds of negative status conditions, were even more expensive. These were only the primary ingredients, not to mention supplementary materials like moo fresh milk. There were cheaper berries available, of course. Some bore no special powers and served merely to sate hunger, averaging just over a dozen Dongwon coins each. But what troubled Qin Hao most was the machine required to make energy cubes. A basic household energy cube maker sold for 200,000 Dongwon coins. Even second-hand units went for 110,000. Qin Hao was utterly shocked upon hearing the price. A machine that could only produce beginner-grade energy cubes cost 200,000 Dongwon coins. 4 of them would cover the full fee for claiming one of the 3 starter Pokemon. It might as well be daylight robbery. No wonder formal breeder theory was only taught starting in university. The costs of machinery and raw materials alone locked out 90% of families across the Dongwang nation. Glancing at the balance on his mobile banking app, Qin Hao temporarily set aside his plan to craft energy cubes. Without the proper equipment, even with the relevant knowledge, he was like a skilled cook without ingredients. He could hardly fashion them by hand, or try using a pressure cooker. This was not ordinary cooking. Should he buy an alchemy cauldron instead? Perhaps he would manage that someday, but not now. I really need to find a way to earn more money. Otherwise, I cannot even afford an energy cube maker. Qin Hao sighed heavily, overcome by frustration. Money was hard to come by in this world, yet it was far easier to make in the world of smiling, proud wanderer. He could simply target wealthy and scrupulous, even vicious clans and easily amass a large sum of cash. Then he would have the funds needed to raise Pokemon. The National Day holiday will arrive before long. I will have plenty of free time to venture into the world of smiling, proud wanderer then. With this thought in mind, Qin Hao walked out of the berry market. It was Saturday, and he still had ample time. He decided to head for the Pokemon Battle Center. The sunlight blazed hot as ever. Fortunately, Qin Hao had grown accustomed to such weather and did not feel irritable. He was no fool, though. He refused to travel directly under the scorching sun. Instead, he took side streets shaded by trees or tall buildings. Some of these routes were remote and rarely traveled. After winding through several turns, Qin Hao caught sight of the Pokemon Battle Center in the distance. When the traffic light turned green, he crossed the zebra crossing and stepped onto the plaza outside the center. Just as he was about to walk straight inside, a familiar voice drifted over from nearby. "I don't know any of you, and I have no interest in making friends with you. If you keep following me, I will call for help." Qin Hao paused and turned toward the source of the voice. Upon looking closer, he recognized the speaker. Beneath a large tree not far away, Su Qin, dressed in a white skirt, was surrounded by several young men. They wore flashy clothing and had voluminous, unkempt hairstyles that almost covered their heads entirely. Coupled with their slouchy, careless demeanors, they looked like typical street hooligans. The leader was fairly good-looking, yet for some reason, he kept tilting his chin upward, seemingly intent on showing off his jawline. Su Qin's resistance only drew mocking laughter from the group. "Relax. My name is Song Yan. I only want to be friends with you." The lead hooligan smirked, taking several slow steps forward. Su Qin's brows tightened, and she instinctively stepped back twice. Her tone remained cold and firm as she refused once more. "I'm sorry, but I have no wish to be friends with you. Please step aside, or I will call the police." Despite her words, she made no move to pull out her phone. Noticing this, the hooligans grew bolder. "Go ahead and call. We haven't laid a hand on you, so the police can't do anything. What exactly do you want before you leave me alone?" Su Qin parted her lips slightly, staring straight at Song Yan, and asked. Song Yan grinned again upon hearing this. He casually pulled out his phone and waved it in front of Su Qin. "As I said before, I just want to be friends. All you need to do is exchange contact information with us." Su Qin fell silent for a moment, then reached toward her shoulder bag. Watching everything unfold clearly, Qin Hao could not help letting out a laugh. The sudden sound disrupted the atmosphere. Su Qin, Song Yan, and the other three hooligans all lifted their heads to look. The moment their eyes met, Su Qin froze visibly, and a trace of panic quickly surfaced on her face. "What are you staring at? Get lost if you don't want a beating," one of Song Yan's companions shouted, pointing aggressively at Qin Hao. Qin Hao, who had only intended to watch the scene unfold, wore an amused smile. "Oh, this plaza isn't private property, is it? I can stand wherever I like. What business is it of yours?" The hooligans were stunned that Qin Hao not only refused to back down, but shot back at them. Accustomed to bullying others, they could not endure such provocation. "You punk, you're asking for trouble." With a roar, three of them closed in without hesitation. Qin Hao stood calmly in place, his expression unchanged. He even took a quick glance around and spotted two surveillance cameras mounted on a nearby lamppost. He turned his body, so his face was fully captured by the lenses. "Come any closer, and I will fight back," Qin Hao warned, his hands hanging loosely at his sides. His warning only drew sneers. "Let's see you try." The blonde-haired hooligan clenched his fist and charged forward again. This time, Qin Hao did not retreat. He stepped nimbly to the side, moving between the three men, and swung his palm hard. Crack! A sharp slap echoed out. The blonde man took the blow to his left cheek and stumbled backward. When he regained his balance, a distinct handprint bloomed on his swelling face. "Damn you! I'll kill you!" Enraged and humiliated by the slap in front of onlookers, the blonde man's eyes turned red as he lunged forward to tackle Qin Hao. The other two rushed to assist him. Their plan sounded good, yet it was nothing but wishful thinking. Thanks to his threefold cloud lightness skill, Qin Hao easily evaded capture. He weaved between the three attackers, landing slap after slap across their faces. Seeing events unfolding contrary to his expectations, the amusement faded completely from Song Yan's face, replaced by a dark scowl. He charged forward to join the fight. "Song Yan, hurry up and help." The blonde hooligan, his face swollen beyond recognition, shouted as saliva leaked from his mouth. Song Yan, who had been watching on, rolled up his sleeves and rushed into the fray. He possessed noticeably better physical fitness than the other three and fought with a fierce edge, yet he was still only an ordinary human. Qin Hao's lightness skill, even imperfect as it was, paired with the physical improvements he had gained over the past half-month, made him more than capable of handling 3 to 5 ordinary people. He sensed Song Yan's movement instantly. Dodging narrowly past Song Yan's incoming fist, Qin Hao waited for the young man to turn his head, then struck. Crack. The slap was louder than any before. Song Yin's head spun from the impact. He stumbled and dropped to one knee, spitting out a blood-stained tooth. I'll. Furious, Song Yin tried to stand, only to meet Qin Hao's fist. One solid blow knocked him unconscious. The remaining 3 hooligans still refused to back down, and Qin Hao subdued them one after another. I thought you lot were tough. That's all you've got. Qin Hao lowered his fists as he stared at the 4 men crumpled on the ground, unable to resist. His counterattack while surrounded counted as justifiable defense. If he struck them again, now that they could no longer pose a threat, he risked exceeding the bounds of legitimate defense. Ding. Host defeated Song Yin. Gained 100 universal experience points. Congratulations on earning 10 skill experience points. Ding. Host defeated Lu Rinjia. Gained 50 universal experience points. Congratulations on earning 5 skill experience points. A string of system notifications echoed in his mind. The other 3 hooligans each granted 50 experience points, while Song Yin was worth 100. It wasn't a total waste of effort. Qin Hao glanced at the 4 men lying on the pavement, his mood lifting. At that moment, Su Qin, who had witnessed the entire brawl, walked over. You? Su Qin seemed to want to say something, but when she saw their grotesquely swollen faces, all color drained from her cheeks. If one looked closely, however, a strange flicker could be seen in her eyes. We need to leave quickly. If people see how badly you hurt them, you will get into trouble. Su Qin bit her lip and whispered. A crowd had gathered, many pulling out their phones to film. In the Dongwang Nation, there was never a shortage of onlookers eager for spectacle. Qin Hao was about to reply when commotion rippled through the crowd. A male and a female police officer pushed through, accompanied by 2 Arcanine. The male officer was middle-aged, while the female officer was young and strikingly attractive. Stay where you are, the male officer ordered. He shot a look at his partner, then knelt down to check the injuries of Song Yin and the others. The female officer understood his signal and walked toward Qin Hao and Su Qin with 1 Arcanine. What happened here? Did you beat them? Qin Hao cooperated fully with her questioning. He nodded and recounted the sequence of events concisely. Officer, it was me. These men were harassing my classmate. I happened to walk past, and they surrounded me and attacked without provocation. I had to defend myself. The surveillance camera over there can prove my innocence. He gestured toward the camera not far away. The female officer relaxed slightly at Qin Hao's calm, composed demeanor and coherent account, showing no trace of guilt or evasion. Rest assured, we will not wrong an innocent person. Still, she stared in surprise at the state of the 4 men on the ground. Still, you took down 4 men alone without sustaining any visible injuries. Are you trained in martial arts? Qin Hao shook his head and smiled faintly. No formal training. I just have quick reflexes. I took several hits from them too. The female officer then took Su Qin's statement. Combined with the numerous eyewitnesses among the crowd, the officers quickly grasped the full picture. You 2 will need to come to the station with us for further questioning. The female officer told them gently. Do not worry. If your account checks out, this incident will not leave any mark on you. Of course, cooperating with the police is every citizen's duty. Qin Hao agreed with a smile. The facts spoke for themselves, and he felt no anxiety. He had originally planned to visit the Pokemon Battle Center, but those plans would have to be abandoned for the day. Events proceeded smoothly afterward. The male officer radioed for backup and called an ambulance. The 4 men appeared severely injured, with 1 unconscious, so they needed hospital examinations. Soon 2 more officers arrived. After taking custody of Song Yin and the others, Qin Hao and Su Qin rode to the police station with the first pair of officers. Once they arrived, the female officer immediately requested access to the surveillance footage. The recordings clearly showed Song Yan's group blocking Su Qin first, then initiating the assault on Qin Hao when he passed by. At first, Qin Hao only dodged and did not fight back. He resorted to force only when they continued their attack. Moreover, he halted immediately once all 4 attackers were incapacitated, with no pursuit afterward. The whole incident fit the definition of justifiable defense perfectly, yet its textbook perfect nature struck the investigating officers as odd. You're quite sharp, young man, and well-versed in the law. No surprise you were the top scorer in this year's high school entrance exam, the female officer said, looking at the handsome youth with interest glinting in her eyes. Qin Hao smiled shyly and said nothing. Some matters were better left unspoken. You're only a first-year high school student, yet you fight so well and understand legal principles. Have you considered applying to the police academy? Graduates receive a grow life, plus excellent benefits. Qin Hao finally responded. University is still a long way off, but I will keep it in mind. I hope we might work together someday. The female officer smiled warmly and changed the subject. We have confirmed the course of events. Your actions qualify as justifiable defense. Once paperwork is complete, you are free to leave. We may need to contact you again if new information emerges. Su Qin breathed a quiet sigh of relief. She feared the police would contact her family. Thank you, officer. We will cooperate fully if needed. Qin Hao remained calm and brought forward a request. These 4 men committed assault against me. Can I press formal charges? You want to pursue charges even after leaving them in such a state? The female officer laughed. One matter is separate from the other. The harm they received does not erase their wrongdoing. Everyone should bear the consequences of their actions. Qin Hao replied earnestly. The female officer's eyes lit up. You're absolutely right. If you wish to proceed, I will file the case. I will notify you of any updates. Also, let's exchange Rotom phone contacts for easier communication later. She pulled out her phone. I appreciate your help. Qin Hao agreed readily and added her as a contact. You don't need to call me officer. My name is Li Qian. You can call me Sister Qian. Li Qian smiled at Qin Hao and Su Qin, revealing faint dimples on her cheeks.